All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to AIP Con 8. I am here with forward deployed engineer Ankit. Ankit, what's up?
Good to be here.
We are going to be live streaming Palantir's AIP Con, so you guys can watch it on the screen. We're watching it as well. I'm going to start the stream, and we'll be giving some commentary during the stream. Here we go.
American corporations, and most importantly, our government, an unfair advantage. The single biggest thing that will make this country dominant is to make industry in this country look like venture did and give venture returns to growth. Most unique thing that Palantir does is we own value creation. We spent 20 years for this moment. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world. And when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Please welcome co-founder and chief executive officer at Palantir, Dr. Alex Karp.
Even this working? It's working. Even I find that motivational. It's pretty good. I should just sit down. It's like, wow. I don't have anything else to say, but at the risk of regurgitating the one thing here, it's like the Silicon Valley. We've been at odds with Silicon Valley on and off since our inception. 20 years ago, where we were essentially patriotic and that was optional in Silicon Valley and kind of viewed skeptically. Being pro, America winning was kind of like, I don't know, kind of like being into origami in high school. It's like you didn't get any dates. People kind of felt sorry for you kind of vibe. And it's like, and you're like, but my swan is so beautiful. Why doesn't anyone love me or even like me? Why? And, But interestingly, now we're largely aligned, certainly in private. It's just in private become the one place in America that is really disproportionately showing the world that we can do things that really don't exist in the Western world, like the way in which we scale tech, build things creatively. And it's actually a place where people still believe in basic controversial concepts like meritocracy, agency. Like we actually believe that you can start off with something that looks crazy, and if you fight really hard and you surround yourself with highly annoying but the most competent people, and that's often correlated. It's not causation, but you could, if you were building Palantir, you could think it's causation. It's somewhere between causation and correlation, depending on how much sleep you've had. And we, literally do not care here where you were born, where you came from, what your parents did. We just don't care. And I spent half my life in Europe and in Germany, a tremendous intellectual culture, but yeah, you will more likely end up where you were born when you're 50 or 60 than any other variable, and that's just not the case in Silicon Valley. What I think where we're very aligned then, though, in like became very aligned with our partners was. And I really underestimated this choice by simply saying, we're going to build the product that's going to make this government agency superior. And by the way, then, it's like all these conspiracy things online that like they got us. And it's like, it was actually the opposite. We fought the government. There were two big things that led to where we got here. One, we're going to build the thing the government ought to build, which is data protection while finding the bad person. And that the alpha, it's very similar to alpha in a business is margin and growth. It's not one. Alpha in government is not finding bad person. It's finding bad person while enhancing civil liberties, or at the very least making sure those civil liberties are harder to eviscerate. That's the alpha. But then the underlying proposition was, we are going to build the whole company around what creates the most value. Now, it was partly because in great part because we believed in it. It was also because we, and especially I, had the sense no one's going to buy this product from us unless it's 10 times better, because they are not looking at me and saying, you look like me and I'm going to buy that product. And if you build downstream from value creation, you end up with forward deployed engineers, echoes, deltas, devs, very few trained people. And the reason you end up with forward deployed engineers, especially in the beginning, is you have to extend the product. And the product we built in the beginning was essentially how do you enhance data protection and find terrorists in a context where you don't have LLMs. And so you have to use very primitive NLP technology. And the answer to that is you build this incredibly difficult to build product with a team of the best engineers I think anyone's seen in Silicon Valley in decades. But then even that didn't work. So we had to have people on the front end who are essentially engineers extending the product to a place where the product couldn't go. And why did we do that? I mean, again, those of you who are, I don't know, over 40 know the punishment of doing that meant that every single financially trained person was on the other side of the business, because what did everyone know as a fact? If you're doing quote unquote services, you have a 1 multiple. Nobody wants to invest in a business that has a 1 multiple. So you are screwed. And in fact, the fact that everyone thought it was a cult, we kind of were, was what saved the company, because we were so in our cult, we were like, multiples, we're not interested in that. We're not going public. So, but if you then fast forward to now, what is driving our business in the US? And it's like, yeah, of course we have the best partners. You're the best partners. What defines a best partner? A partner is somebody who wants to create maximum value in their business, meaning revenue and margin shift, and everything that is kind of downstream of that. Safety goes up, happiness goes up of employees, workers. One of the things I do think Silicon Valley is totally effed up. It's like in overhyping the value of LLMs by not listening to our treatises of truth that an LLM is a raw material that has to be processed, and the processing of the LLM will change America and change the world. By overhyping the LLM and saying you're going to have AGI tomorrow, when of course that wasn't what was going to happen, you had to go adversarial to workers, because you had to say, well, of course you're going to disappear tomorrow because our LLM doesn't work the way it should today and is very valuable, but it's not without an ontology architecture around it to make it predictive, a very unseemingly powerful tool that's built on statistics, more precise. You had to say the less precise thing is going to be fully valued tomorrow. And so instead of doing what it should have done, which is you can actually transform your business by being open to different ways of doing business. And what would that mean? It would mean anywhere where human ingenuity can be enhanced, whether that's the worker, whether it's the person running something, where the person who's in charge of a part of their business can take large language models, use them inside their enterprise. And what does that mean? It means extending the human mind. It means being able to use the large language model to change margins, to increase safety, to increase revenue. And how do you do that? Well, of course, the model has to interact with an understanding of your business as it is. What is your business? It is a concatenation of your insights, your knowledge of how to run the business, your competitive advantage, which is essentially tribal. I know how to do this in a different way than anyone else. The high fidelity data sets in your business, and your ability to orchestrate the large language models outside of your business while being inside an abstraction of your business. You would need something like ontology and foundry. Maybe you could get it from someone else. And you would need forward deployed engineers on our side to teach your people how to be forward deployed engineers, because there's a way in which you still have to extend the product. So it is extending your uniqueness. It is not making you a commodity. And by the way, this is where we're aligned against what most people view as a business, because we are not building, we want a non-commodified business. We want a business that is completely differentiated than anyone else's, so that people struggle to compete to the point where they just have to complain about you on TV, which is what happens to us every day. Everyone's complaining about, it's like, it's like, that's what you want for your business. And that's exactly what you can get by taking essentially this very, very important raw material and using it in a processed form in your business. And I think this is why we're so happy with you. And I hope you're as happy with us as we are with you. And why, we can, and I think, basically transfer over time our financials to your financials, because we're doing exactly the same thing. And then what I personally love about this is it gives a massively unfair advantage largely to businesses in this country. Why? Because if you compare corporate culture in America to any other country, you have highly dynamic meritocratic structures that are plastic in the sense that people will move and change to what works, not what worked yesterday. It is like Germany is an incredible culture, but the way in which the corporate structure works is the whole corporate structure is in charge for like 30 years. Like it is nearly impossible to change how you do things. In America, we're like, yeah, what the hell? We're just going to do what works. And then you have a native, essentially, this is a native capacity. It's in America. And that also is a huge differentiator, because de facto, it's very hard to accept a new way of doing things if the person explaining it is not rooted deeply into your culture. And so this like just completely hypercharges industry. Now, it also hypercharges government, which is why we're doing very well in government, although it's worthy of note whenever people are like, Palantir's doing too well in government. I was like, yeah, we are doing very well, but it's 40 points less than how we're doing in commercial. But any case, what makes me really look forward to these conferences, and every time even more, is we are fully aligned with making sure your world looks closer to our world, which is you're able to radically increase growth, radically decrease margins, and increase the happiness of the people in your business at all levels of business, including workers. And that is actually the real promise of the AI revolution. And, and I'm really happy you're here. And then the other, it's just like, it's incredible to have, it's easy for, like in the end of the day, people are going to think, well, yeah, he's in charge of the company. He's a large owner. Of course he says that. Well, again, that's why we have people here. It's like one of the things we learned when we built PG in the beginning was we could run around telling governments it's the best product, or we could put people in the room and you could talk about your experiences, good, bad, ugly. And then what you're doing here is you are actually a change agent function, because in fact, you got on the boat. And the reason why I'm grateful to you, you got on the boat before anyone else. And now everybody's like, I have a bot in my company. That's not really working. I have a piece of software in my company that was basically, I don't know, like every single company we look at, there's like, I don't know, at scale, there's like $1 billion of like duplicative software that is just a Frankenstein monster lurking in your company, preventing you from doing what you want. What is it you want to know? I want to know the cost of goods. I want to know how I'm going to increase. How am I going to be more efficient? How do I deal with a situation where there's macroeconomic disruption? Like, and the thing that's impeding you from that is the software that is lurking in your system that you somehow can't take out. And we're going to partner with you to do that. And you're going to partner with us to make your company great, and occasionally tell other people that we helped you, and that we're not the freak show that people think, or we are. My favorite compliments in government were like, honestly, from the special forces. They're like, man, you guys look really freaky. And in the beginning, I didn't like you, but when you helped save my buddy's life, I really learned to like you. And another lesson in Silicon Valley is we are able to learn to like people and partner with people that in the beginning were not exactly our cup of tea. And we do this as a culture. It's one of the most underestimated parts of our culture. American culture learns to like what works. And that's a very rare quality. It's very different than like other interesting, great places in the world. We really do learn to like and value what is working. Not what worked in the past, not what could work, not what they say at Berkeley philosophy department is going to work, not what some crazy person on the right left aspires to believe could work in a society that wasn't differentiated, that didn't have technology, that didn't have finance, and didn't have any enemies. Yeah, lots of things work under those conditions, including, the faculty lounge at Berkeley. But in this world, Americans learn to like and love things that actually do work and give disruptive value. And that's essentially what we're claiming to do with you as partners. So very happy to have you here. Delighted. And I hope you have a great time. Take care. Bye.
All right, folks. So I'm here with Ankit. He is a forward deployed engineer at Palantir. Throughout the entire AIP Con, we're going to be pausing here and there whenever we have some commentary on some of these presentations. Ankit has worked at Palantir for a while, and so I think he can speak. He's also did an interview with me on my channel with the AI FDE stuff. So we'll be occasionally pausing and just giving some discussion around what's going on.
Hope your journey was smooth, and I hope if you flew that it was on American Airlines. So thank you for your business. My name is Anne Moroney. I'm the Vice President of Operations Planning and Performance at American, and I'm here with my colleague, Amit Shinde, who's our Director of Operations Strategic Planning. Our team's mission, to put it simply, is to build the best possible plan for the airline that will support our incredibly competitive network and deliver reliably, efficiently, and safely for you, our customers, every day. So with that, we're really excited to talk to you about our partnership with Palantir today and what we've been starting to do with Foundry and how we transform the way that we actually build our network. So nearly 100 years of innovation at American Airlines, and it's led us to be the largest airline in the world, carrying the most passengers and operating the most flight than any other airlines. 630,000 customers will fly on us today. To put it in perspective, that's 220 million passengers a year. 6,500 flights, that's about 5 times the size of the entire London Heathrow operation will be operated today on American. And we do this with a phenomenal team, over 14,000 pilots, 24,000 flight attendants, 35,000 airport employees, and 6,000 mechanics who will work 24/7, 365 to run the operation safely. So our planning, bear with me for a minute. Imagine you're at a gate ready to board your flight. For that moment to happen, the planning has started long in the making to ensure that that aircraft is at that gate with the right crew, with fueling, catering, servicing on board, baggage and cargo loaded, the flight plan ready to go, security checks done, and the ground crew and ground equipment ready to push your aircraft. That planning starts months in advance and will go all the way to the day of operation, where an integrated operations center will actually dispatch your flight. It's an incredibly complex logistical problem. And unfortunately, as you can imagine, many of you in the room can relate. Our current planning is incredibly manual, incredibly sequential, and unfortunately, as a result, quite siloed. So from outdated UIs, like you can see on the screen, Excel spreadsheets, attachments being sent via emails between teams, we spent an inordinate amount of time trying to actually build the best schedule we can. We rely on expert planners to weigh thousands of different variables and look at many different data points to find the balance between profitability and reliability. And as you can imagine, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for optimization. Now, our schedule build starts at the core of it with demand, making sure that our network is the most competitive it can be to serve our customers' needs. But obviously, a lot of operational constraints need to factor in. Fleet is a big part of it, pilot hours, gate and infrastructure, airspace constraint, the time we need on the ground to maintain our aircraft and to turn our aircraft at the airport. All of that is built by our network planning team into a first version of a schedule that will then be sent over to all of our operational teams, who will then provide feedback, but also build their own plans. Workforce plan, workload plan, material plan, ground equipment plan, and you name it. Unfortunately, by the time a team finds an opportunity in the schedule, it is often too late to build in their original plan, or the solution they have in mind works great for them, but does not actually work for the enterprise. Fixing a crew issue could actually cause a maintenance issue if it's not thought through the right way. We have to solve earlier in the process as a network, and we have to solve on a continuous basis. Time is against us when we do this. Of course, the world changes. As we build those schedules, things change, and we need to be dynamic and competitive to respond to the market demands. So we set out to partner with Palantir to completely redesign this workflow and rethink the way that we do business. And it's been an incredible journey. In just about a year, we've already unlocked millions, tens of millions of dollars of value. The idea here is to actually collate all of this data and integrate the workflows between network planning and operations planning, and really unlock efficiencies that otherwise would not have even been visible to our people. The goal, again, here in what we've been building is to do this continuously, dynamically, because the world keeps evolving. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Amit, who's going to take you a little deeper into what we've built.
This is pretty interesting because I think this kind of problem of bringing operations and planning together, basically every customer that has any kind of planning workflow has something like this, where they have to figure out what does it actually take to bridge those two things. Actually, Amit has worked with us at another customer, the other Amit, the one on screen. And so he saw the benefits of actually bridging that gap between, hey, I have a planning team and an operations team, and maybe the operations team doesn't think the planning team is doing a great job because it doesn't impact their day-to-day operations, and then vice versa. The operations team is like, well, this plan is not very useful because it's not reacting to the things that are actually changing in my day-to-day. So if you can bring those two closer together, I mean, often that means moving the life cycle of, hey, I'm planning once a year, or once every 6 months or something like that. How do we bring that to saying, maybe we can do it live, or at least bring it from 6 months to 3 months to 1 month to 1 week, that kind of thing. And so as that happens, then it's like, also, can we react based on, hey, the American Airlines version of this is like, you have tons of changes. Like, hey, there's a storm. Hey, this plane is now stuck in a different airport. Hey, this maintenance, this part we need for maintenance, that doesn't exist anymore. So it'll be pretty exciting to see.
Imagine our workflows on how do we effectively identify these issues, how do we localize where those issues are happening, and how do we actually fix them. So there's a lot going on the screen. This is a solution we call Vector. It's obviously built on Foundry, otherwise it wouldn't be here. But it shows us sort of the critical information, right? Like, these are key performance indicators at the top. But there's something really interesting that is happening on the left-hand side of your screen, right? So if you look at the Crew Advisor module, you will realize that instead of us having to go hunt and peck where these inefficiencies are, those are actually being surfaced to me, right? So these are recommendations that the models are scanning the entire network on, and they're saying there's something that I've found, you probably want to take a look at it. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. As I'm sort of going in a layer deeper, what I see is that it's recommending that my San Francisco flight needs to be retimed by 15 minutes, right? And you would think, like, okay, that's a really simple thing. Like, what's the big deal in that, right? You should be doing that in any case. Problem is, this happens to be a notoriously difficult problem. That one flight retime is going to trigger a whole bunch of upstreams and downstream constraints that now come into conflict. And I need a mechanism where I'm starting to think through all of these different possibilities as I work through the schedule. To help us with this, there are models that are integrated in the background that provide live checks for me, right? And these checks are looking at, am I creating a gating issue? Am I creating a turn issue? Am I violating any of my standards? Am I violating any of my site barriers? And those models are running continuously in the background, right? The end result of this is, I'm going to come into this and you will realize that it's actually identified a conflict for me. So that 15-minute retime, even if I implement it, the models are now saying that, hey, you have a problem. You need to go resolve this through some of the mechanism. And in this case, instead of just dumping that problem in my lap, Vector is smart enough where it is actually going in and looking at what are the other possible ways through which you can solve out of this issue. And in this case, it's looking at some models, these are optimization models, that are saying if you just flow your lines a little bit differently, you have a really good solution, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're not done yet, though, right? So from a customer's experience, we need to make sure that any solutions, any augmentations of the schedule can operate not just on beautiful blue sky days that we see here in California most of the times, but also on gray sky days, right? When there are thunderstorms that are happening. So we have integrated network simulation models in the background that are constantly stressing our network. They're stressing our schedules, and they're trying to evaluate where are the choke points, where are the break points. It had identified a potential problem. And at the same time, if you follow the pattern here, it's also going to make recommendations on other edits that I need to do so that I can actually go ahead and fix out of it or solve out of it. This would be a terrible demo if that did not turn green. But this is an actual example. And as a consequence of this, right, so the initial proposition was you can save costs by retiming a particular flight. And you have to work through a whole bunch of layers on other constraints that you have to go solve for, and Foundry sort of guiding our analysts, guiding our schedulers all the way through. At the end of it, I'm now confident that the solutions or the schedules that I'm putting out for you are safe, they're reliable, and they're profitable at the same time. That, I'm going to hand it over to Anne.
So you saw the focus that we've had with Foundry has been on driving those efficiencies out of the network, and the great example that Amit walked through Crew. But the potential for this is a lot bigger, and we want to expand their use of Foundry into this integrated planning platform, to network planning all the way to all of our operational planning teams, and really collapse the workflows to find more areas for efficiencies like we have so far. We're incredibly excited. It's just been about a years-long journey. Like I mentioned, tens of millions of dollars already saved, and we can't wait for what's next. Thank you.
Please welcome Head of Data 42 at Novartis, Birgit Scherbel.
Good morning. Now we're switching gears. My name is Birgit Scherbel, Head of Data 42 at Novartis. Novartis is a leading global medicines company, and we focus on science and innovation. I'm really excited to be here today to share with you how we reimagine the way we discover novel, life-saving medicines with the power of data and AIP. So as many probably know, the pharmaceutical industry faces a big challenge. Currently, it takes us about 12 years on average and $3 billion to develop a novel medicine. This is largely driven by a low probability of success. With an odds ratio of 1 in 10,000 for one of our discovery stage molecules synthesized by chemists early on to ever reach regulatory approval. So this is not a problem we can solve with vibe coding alone. So at Novartis, we believe that the probability that improving the probability of success requires 3 critical elements. So one is the democratized access to context-enriched.
All right, folks, I'm sorry. We had to actually switch locations. And the reason we had to switch locations is because there's someone that wanted to just stop by for a couple minutes and talk to everybody. So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing the CEO and co-founder of Palantir, Dr. Alex Karp.
Hey.
What's up?
Well, you know, I'm happy to be here with my brothers in arms, and sisters. Yeah.
So this is a live chat. This is the people I talk to every single day.
Yeah.
And they have been following your journey.
By the way, you know, it's the whole DPO humiliate the experts thing, which I think, you know, we together pulled off unlike any other company in history, where they derided us at 6 because they knew so much about software. They derided us all the way up because they knew so much about software. They were crying when the SMP happened. They're afraid that I'm sending Lentinol laced drones, which is obviously was a joke. But, you know, apparently They didn't understand the joke. Some people on the woke right and left don't get the joke. But
How does it feel? The stock was $6. Obviously, things have changed. Retail believed, institutions did it. Now institutions are like, well, I guess you got to. I mean, like, how does it feel?
Institutions are like, oh, yeah, valuation's so high. I'm like, well, when did you invest? Yeah, but well, no, it feels great. But honestly, look, our business was built and is built to provide an unfair advantage to people that are fighting for on the front line for things like truth, rule of law, meritocracy. But the small individual person that risked their own assets and didn't have a lot, it always reminded me of me. I didn't have a lot. I risked everything to build what I, co-built. And everybody was laughing all the way. And it's really important for the progress of humanity, for truth seekers who risk everything they have to win. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to win, but I can sure as fuck tell you it motivated me every day. And like a lot of these things are like, it's like the Palantir does not happen automatically. Like if you just, you guys follow our products, but it's like PG, Foundry, Ontology, Apollo, Maven. The building the product, the conceptualization of the product, the getting it to the point where it can be moderately deployed with highly technical, so deltas, moving it to the point where it can be serviced and extended by FDEs and then by the client, and then magically getting paid for it. This is like war-like effort over a long period of time. Not to mention the people that are on the inside creating value are some of the smartest and often most difficult people on the planet, and you've got to get them to actually align. And that, but again, all of that would have been for naught if at the DPO people had not shown up and said, "Fuck the institutional experts. They're not actually even doing the math. They just don't like us because they don't like us. They like us. They hate us so much they will not look at the underlying math or the product." Like, and
why do you think they hated you? Like, why did retail see something special?
Well, I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, I look and feel like a retail person. I'm like a, dyslexic misfit that, never really was ever going to have a real place in the institutional structure. They were never going to value me. The fact that I had my own ideas, or we had our own ideas that were not 100% derivative from a playbook that existed 100 years ago, that is not working anymore. And that should not work anymore. And like, when you're looking at Palantir and you're like, you got your day job, you're looking at, okay, just a minute, this guy's saying some stuff. I kind of think that's crazy, or I think that's interesting, but I know how people react to me when I just say things that turn out to be true. And I'm going to go put my own efforts behind this person. And by the way, in two ways, really, putting up money and then defending us. Yeah. Palantir has been under constant attack since inception. First, it was the Valley saying I was a clown, taking all these talented people and getting them to work on, saving the West. Then it was, the FDE model could never scale until like 5 years.
Well, now every company seems to have a forward deployed engineer.
Well, there's this Wittgenstein quote that I love. Ein Regel folgen zu glauben ist kein Regel zu folgen, which is to believe you're following a rule is not to follow a rule. It's like, yeah, they all have FDAs. They're just salespeople with no ontology. Like, it's crazy that you think this is going to work without orchestrating who does what, without the best people in the world, and without ontology and Foundry. And by the way, this is a scale game, not a venture game. So you don't have scale, you don't have ontology, you do not have the internal orchestration, you do not have an understanding of where the high fidelity data sets are, and you have some ridiculous idea of how LLMs are going to work. And you think your job is to just say, hey, we're Palantir because we have some fake FDE that's actually a salesperson that's not an engineer, and there's no echo, there's no delta, there's no ontology, there's no culture. We benefit. This is another reason why retail people have loved us. Palantir internal culture, as you know, is flat, non-hierarchical, and that's
why you're able to recruit guys like him.
Yeah, well, it's not just him on the outside, in the inside; it's people like you on the outside. Yeah, because what kind of culture would you like to work with? You want some Nimrod who did their MBA at some school telling you how things have to be, or do you want to build your life? But I'll tell you a variable that's also playing a role. If you have orchestration on the inside, which is, by the way, and the other thing is, all of this is artistic. Our orchestration is artistic. The FDA is artistic. Building ontology is actually a combination of artistry and then code. So it's like both. there's a way in which time is compounding. So you could look at our financials, 94, 93, 68, 48, meaning the relevant financials of our company. And you could say, well, how's that possible? Well, it's because like all the values are accreting to artistic orchestration on the inside, on the outside, ontology, fidelity, and that actually compounds time.
Yeah.
So it's like what's happening is that we're getting 3 years of value in 1 year, and this is going to accelerate. And why does this happen? Because on a normal company, when you have an impulse from the outside, it de facto goes into a time delay machine where it goes through the hierarchy. Palantir, there's no time delay machine. Like if we're on something, we're on it. Now, this is obviously not a perfect company, and we have parts of our company that are like Europe where they don't embrace these things. But again, there's an acceleration of time, and the orchestration ontology is like calling yourself an FDE is like me calling myself a linebacker.
Let's take one of those open secrets. So one analogy that brought me to Palantir 13 years ago was this, like your description of like how the analogy of the FDE works like a French kitchen. Do you want to tell the open secret?
Yeah. So the way, like, well, first of all, the biggest thing about Palantir is the whole structure is built downstream of value creation.
Correct.
Right. So, like, then we had this thing where PG, you had NLP technology and a very complicated product, but it still could not do what a client would want in a complicated environment because the technology wasn't there. And the kind of technology is never there. You're always pushing it beyond the front line. And when I was very poor and sitting in France, just largely reading books and learning the fine art of picking up French women, which is an art. I noticed that, the reason the food was so good is the person serving the food was a technical expert, and they were preparing the food till the final mile. And that meant that it was like an ongoing, but it also meant they were seeing what the client wanted and didn't want. And by the way, if the client asked for horseradish on their souffle, they're like, fuck you, I'm not doing that because that's not how it works. But if the client was like, well, I want a derivative of horseradish, and I'm like, okay. So having an instrument on the final mile that actually can accurately document what the partner wants, but also can say no to completely ridiculous shit, extends your product, allows you to build what they ought to build, and gets truth into your enterprise. And that compounds all the way through.
And truth and authenticity is rare. I think one of the reasons people resonate with my journey is because you guys didn't make money for 20 years. Now you're profitable. Now the street really cares about you guys because you were so focused on delivering value. Because you knew the money would eventually find the value. I have not really monetized my audience for the past 5 years and never asked for subscriptions or things like that because I know that the attention and providing value day in and day out unconditionally will work out in the long term. Do you think people realize, or at least the market realizes, that Palantir is delivering value, and that's what you get a multiple?
Again, this is why. I mean, the market, first of all, they're so misaligned because at the end of the day, you got to remember, you invest in us because you saw something like yourself. They're petrified that something like us could actually be right. So, it's like, of course, they're going to be a huge discount
because it destroys the software industrial complex.
That's of course that's a software version.
To build a business.
Well, it's like, but it's just like in a world where you're right. What is their job?
Huh.
Like, it's like, yeah, what is their job? It's like, so, and also they have all these things where they're perfect and we're imperfect. Yeah. But what if we are the way, what matters in the world is disruption. And by the way, where they were right in the past was the value was incremental. So maybe having the right teeth and the right parents and the right school was much more important than being right. But that's no longer the case, which is why, and people are just go mad. I mean, look, is there sometimes I go on X and I'm like, does anyone talk about anything besides Palantir? I mean, now I love the fans, but I mean, on the negative side, it's like, is there any woke person, right or left, that doesn't wake up in the morning saying, I hate Palantir? Is there any business where the person's not running around on TV being like, I don't know, whatever they're saying?
Why do you think the woke left and right have put you in the Venn diagram of hating Palantir?
Well, now, you always have to steel man these things. Part of the leaders of the woke right and left are selling a narrative where Palantir is anti-civil liberties or anti-worker. This is just not true. We are very pro-civil liberties. And if you define civil liberties as we not only help enforce them, but we are the single hardest product in the world to break, which is why we suffered. I mean, without naming names, there are agencies in the world that are not actually pro-civil liberties. Those agencies never bought our product. So as a category, there are exceptions. SIGINT organizations hate Palantir. And then And if you wanted to do civil liberties violations, anyone technical, and by the way, I encourage anyone I love skeptics. If you're a skeptic of what I'm saying, take 10 minutes, take 15 minutes and look at our architecture and compare it to not to your divine idea of what software would look like if you knew anything about software or to any other software product in the world. And then it's like, it is the hardest product to abuse. It's the hardest product to emulate. Then on the anti-worker thing, yeah, large language models are excruciatingly valuable when combined with ontology, with tribal knowledge, combined with FDEs who are actually FDEs, when combined with internal and extra orchestration and high fidelity data sets. Okay. The LLM industrial complex had to oversell what they were doing because the ELO scores are however you want to do the hill climbing.
They had to prove they weren't a commodity when they were.
Yeah, well, or that the hill climbing was actual reality. It's hill climbing. It's not actual enterprise results. And they're developing in a linear way, and there are many options, not one. The non-linear output of LLMs is as a natural resource. So they oversold this, and the way they oversold it was saying your workers are not going to have a job. And then the workers are like, yeah, but screw that. Right. Why am I transferring all my wealth to these unlikable people? So that is like those two things are real issues and have to be discussed. I would encourage skeptics to just remember, if you want to learn from retail investors of Palantir, which I would say is one of the best group of people you can learn from, you've got to go into your own time, your own space, and validate what people are saying. And then the other thing you really have to do is, being right is an art, it's not a science. So if somebody's telling you Palantir is going to eviscerate your civil liberties, it's a conspiracy, Karp is a conspiracy by the CIA to take away your liberties. Okay, well then you could just prima facie ask, why did they hire the company that they liked the least and transfer billions of revenue to him personally?
Why did they hire the company that sued them?
Yeah, well, then we had to sue the DoD, but even like, okay, so there's a magical lottery where I win it. Okay. Okay, great. So it's like, well, yeah, I love the idea that I magically win a lottery. So it's like, and then what about the people who like worked at Palantir for like 10 years who are like dedicated their life? Like, we're just working magically all the time around the clock with the highest IQ, most difficult people in the world. By the way, who are mostly American. Many of them come from the Midwest, look exactly like our retail investor base. And I was
talking to Cam Hardaway the other day.
Yeah, and, exactly. Yeah.
Tall Christian, 7 kids.
Oh, well, no, the whole. So you have the left and the right. It's like Palantir is a Jewish conspiracy led by a motley, like completely, uniquely structured mutt that somehow it's like, yeah, well, how do you explain all honestly, most people at Palantir who've worked at Palantir are white male Christian.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, but they're dedicating their life to my conspiracy. The whole thing is, but the more important thing is, if you're on this feed or you're listening to this video, you are somebody who can have a huge impact in life. Verify and develop your own opinion. Then when you start to notice somebody who's consistently right, the rebuttal presumption is they're probably right. And that's how you actually win. And by the way, that person may not be likable for you in the beginning, but the person you like may not be on your side. Like, look, is the Democratic Party on the side of poor people for real? I'm an unhappy Democrat at core. It's like could we actually help poor people in this country, or could we just say some BS that is never going to help poor people? Like, oh yeah, I'm afraid of poor people, but nothing works. It's all dangerous. Doesn't work. And there's versions of this. I don't know. You have any other questions you want to ask before I keep ramping?
Yeah, I know you got to go, but we really appreciate you taking the time for this. A lot of people have been waiting to just hear from you live authentic for a long time. I guess, what is the message to everyone who's been following your journey and in the face of the skeptics that they deal with every day understands that Palantir is a special company?
No. Well, first of all, look at our products, look at what we're doing, look at the people we've gathered on the inside. Look at people, look at the people who hate on us. By the way, but we do need those skeptics. We need them attacking us. Like, every time these people attack me and Palantir, I wake up and think about orchestration.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and you should too. It's like, one of the lessons for Palantirian supporters is like, we need the skeptics. We need the people who are saying, we're eviscerating civil liberties so that we can expose our ontology and make it better. and our branching and our ACLs and teach people what this means and how it works. We need these people also so we can teach people what it means to build, that we're not excluding them. We need the people on who are saying this is some weird conspiracy at the expense of X, Y, and Z to expose people to what real thought is. We need to have a discussion about whether the West is superior and how. Are we really willing to fight for it? We need to have a discussion about, like, what does corporate hierarchy look like? Is it going to be some kind of, is it like, how do we move it to?
These are hard, nuanced discussions.
Hard, nuanced discussions. We need like their CEO saying, I don't know, like every day we're expensive or whatever is being said. It's like, we need them to expose, hey, I'm sorry, Chad gets laid and you don't, it's like, I don't know, there's hard truths in the world. Yeah. We're, why they're not nice enough. They're not nice enough. They get all the girls. I don't know. It's like, yeah, they're like, you got to perform. Like performance matters and being right matters, and organizing people in a meritocratic, fair way where you have delivery really is decisive. And we need you, Palantir needs you. We need you to defend us. One of the lessons we're going to see in broader society is you can't sit back and not defend yourself. If you're a Palantirian or you're a Palantirian supporter, you are very likely on the cutting edge of believing in agency, meritocracy, truth, that the small person can win, that the big person who's entitled, it may be wrong, that even though they have all the reputation and everything, they may have to someday go on TV and complain about how you're getting the goods. But we are going to have to defend ourselves, because we will not win by sitting back and just saying, but what we know is obviously true. Yeah, it was never obviously true. Like how many, like all these articles about us, just normal, like people who can't do math, don't understand product. Yeah, we have to defend ourselves. And so like this, and by the way, it's like we're at the infancy of time collapsing. Like every day is going to be faster. And those days collapse based on internal orchestration, lack of hierarchy, something like an ontology, something like Foundry, and the world's most talented people.
Fannie Mae, 6 months to 6 seconds. I mean, that is real. And no articles seem to cover that.
Well, also 94. I mean, like, this is the thing. I mean, like, I didn't enter this being overly fixated on financial metrics. And interestingly, I think they are downstream of value creation. I deeply believe that. And we've built the company around that. But, like argue with rule of 94, 93. I think it's 68% in the market that matters the most in the world, America. We have 68% growth in America. And what does growth mean? It's like top line and bottom line. So like this, like 94. We have people complain we're too successful in the U.S. government. We are very successful, but it's 40 points below, commercial. They see wide adoption. Then look at the kind of people that are at Palantir, or once at Palantir and support Palantir, versus the people that weren't at Palantir, couldn't be at Palantir, never want to be at Palantir, never invested, and think we're some kind of conspiracy that is like a negative indicator of society. Just compare. Judge the people by the fruits they bear. Look at the Palantir fruits. Look at what we do. I mean, and then there's a lot of things we can't talk about that we're doing. Look at the imputed goodness we bring to the world. So in any case, I'm very grateful to you guys. And that you're on the front line. I'm very enthusiastic. We are very enthusiastic about Palantir, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you for inspiring a generation.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Hope everyone enjoyed a appearance by Mr. Karp. And you want to just stay out here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice spot. So.
Yeah. So we will get back to AIP Con. We'll talk more about that later. But I did say yesterday there might be a special guest who joins. I don't know if he would actually join, and well, he joined. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. All right.
I think he said a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. Do you want to comment real quick on just some of the stuff he said, and then we'll
yeah.
AIP Con?
I think a lot of that, especially, I like that we're using these names externally, where we have had made up titles the entire time. I've been at Palantir, things like forward deployed engineer, and a big part of that is what he orchestrated. Of hey, you have to be that integrated French kitchen. You have to be able to go in and
Sean talked about this on his first blog post around the front. Yeah, it's a hell of a metaphor because it actually describes what it means to work at Palantir.
Yeah, it's going in and you actually have people to go and say, well, we're going to change the food because this is what I'm seeing on the front end. I actually understand that in depth. And then also being that hiring difficult people, because I think for a lot of that, it's like, yeah, we have to be able to defend ourselves, and we have to do that in a steelman way. You have to go in and seriously consider all of the things being said about Palantir and then saying, hey, what can we do to build and then share as much as we can about.
Why did you
things.
choose to work at Palantir? I mean, you're a smart guy. You could have got a job at a lot of tech companies, I imagine.
Yeah, I actually had an offer to go to a different tech company, and I had a friend who joined Palantir before me. And there are two things that drove me to Palantir. One is in college, I was walking around in the career fair, and they told us to go to this as a freshman. You know, you don't expect to go get a job. You just go in there. A lot of people said, "Hey, come back when you're a senior, or come back when you're looking for a full-time role." And the Palantir version of this was going and they asked me a technical question right out of the gate. And I was like, oh, this place is different and weird. That's not how anyone else is set up here. They were asking it, and then they were pointing us to some pretty cool videos of what the products were doing and some of the impact of, hey, here's how some customers are using it.
Yeah.
So like, all right, this is interesting. And then I had a friend who joined and said, hey, this is a pretty cool place. We're trying to figure out what the commercial side of our business looks like, and nothing's figured out. And a lot of my friends were like, "Why would I join?" Yeah, right. There's a company that is, I won't name names, but it's a tech company that was like on the trajectory to look like huge growth and things like that. It's like, this place doesn't seem like it has a strategy for the business. Definitely not profitable, but even like they don't even really seem to have a pricing strategy around any of these things that you expect. There's no playbook. Right. And I think the thing that drew me there was like, but it seems like they care a lot about working on the important problems. Yes. Every interview that I had, they were telling me about, it's like, hey, here's what I'm thinking about every day. I'm thinking about how we catch fraud for commercial organizations to actually protect consumers here. Here's what it looks like for me. Here is what the kind of approaches that we're thinking about. And here's all of the future growth in front of us.
And you were attracted to the problem-solving nature of that.
Yeah, and I think it was also just the commitment to saying, I think when I joined Palantir, I was very much like, I don't know, this mission-driven thing is maybe not for me. It seems a little weird, but then I realized that it's like that's another way of saying it's like, well, what I care about is shipping the thing that matters.
Yes,
and I do want to go.
But it's hard to find people like that. I mean, that's what Karp like to find someone like that and to keep you here and to not have you lured away by shiny objects, but stay on the mission, because of the art of solving the problem is more rewarding than even the compensation of solving it.
Yeah, and I think retail investors know that that's gone pretty well and that payoff happens eventually. But I think the version of this that's real is every day there is you can go and sit next to the person who's using your product to make decisions that are life or death. This is right. Hey, we're monitoring for sepsis in hospitals. And it's like this, if you do it right, you save lives that otherwise would not be saved. You're going in and building these things that are directly tied to the outcomes. And I think even when you are building a platform to do that, saying, hey, I'm going to go sit next to the person that's using this, building on top of this, that kind of thing, it's a very different story. Funnily enough, it looks like that's exactly what the on right now as well. So I think that was the thing that drew me here, and honestly, just keeping that focus, because the company changes every 2 or 3 years to make sure that we're still oriented around, are we doing the thing that is valuable for our customers? Are we ruthlessly focused on that? Yeah. I think the thing that seemed kind of anti-strategy to me when I was, as Karp calls it, an earlier chamber of Shaolin, where it was I don't know, does it make sense for us to not just take one of these exit ramps of, hey, we should just do the data platform thing, and that would be good enough. That would sell pretty quickly. Yeah, it would be a clear playbook. We know it. We could be able to ramp up a sales team, and people want it. People are asking for it. Yeah. And so then the question was like, well, okay, but is that going to save more lives?
If they want a medium well steak, do you give them medium rare? Because that's the right type of steak, even though I would disagree with that. But
oh boy, this is why we don't do steak dinners.
But you made the right food for the people, and I think that's the other unique thing about Palantir. It's like to have a presupposition of what the world ought to be like, and then to tell money that wants to come in to say, we're not going to take your money until you do it our way because we know it's right for you. To have the balls to say that, that's hard, bro.
And I think a lot of it is like, we don't go into this with a high ego. I think we go in saying like, look, you understand your problems better than we do. Yeah. But can we honestly say that we would be happy if we solved this problem? Like if you moved all your stuff from one platform to another platform, does that move the needle for anyone? Would you be happy at the end of the day if that's all you did? Yeah. And the answer is no. Then that's not the problem we're going to go after. Let's go after the problem that you would be happy to solve. And so that is really how we orient with customers. like, no, we're going to partner on this. And so you're going to tell us where we're wrong. You're going to tell us why this isn't getting you what you need. This is each of the customers that we're seeing today. They have gone through this journey with us. They've gone through the, well, here's how I'm thinking about it right now. Here's like other products that we have. Here's maybe how they frame it. And then we go into the, well, what do we actually, what would you be happy to solve? And so that's how we end up with some of the demos that we see today.
I love it. We're gonna go back to AIP Con, guys. I appreciate all the super chats. I didn't really want to read them while Karp was being Karp, so deeply appreciate that. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. We'll go deeper into all of this tomorrow on the Market Open, but we'll go back to AIP Con. I think you and I will be back in a second as well, and we'll see some of these other presentations. And I think they have a halftime show coming up as well. I will not be on the halftime show, so we will see what happens when they get to the halftime. This is
Really
Maine Health.
complex work, and it happened very, very quickly. When Mr. Baggins required an unexpected hospitalization, AIP to the rescue, helped overturn the inpatient denial. And then months after Mr. Baggins' care ended, AIP managed a coding denial associated with his stay. So in the process, AIP teamed up with 5 different AI agents and someone like me to help Mr. Baggins and Mr. Baggins Hospital manage various insurance issues. So what we just witnessed is really impressive technology, no doubt. But I'm here to tell you, I think what makes Palantir truly amazing are its people. Our Palantir engineers displayed a relentless pursuit of effectiveness combined with a can-do spirit that elevated everyone they came into contact with. Sure, we haven't solved the problem of insurance company denials at Maine Health, but thanks to Palantir, we have the weapons to stay in the fight against much bigger foes. So in the end, what makes Palantir a great fit for Maine Health? It's really simple. Palantir helps Maine Health win more with less.
Please welcome Captain at the Texas Department of Public Safety, John Miller.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is John Miller. I'm a captain with the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Ranger Division Special Operations Group. We are an organization that responds to critical man-made and natural disasters across the entire state of Texas, focusing on everything from border security operations to hostage rescue events at the tactical level, and augmented by our Border Security Operations Center and Joint Operation Intelligence Centers spread across the Texas border at the operational and strategic level. I'm going to be talking to you about the run-through of events leading up to the flooding events on the 4th of July in Kerr County. 2 months ago today, in hours of darkness, there was a massive storm system that gathered over Kerr County and dropped a record amount of rainfall in Kerr County, specifically the area upriver of Hunt, Texas, going through the South Fork of the Guadalupe, really starting at Camp Mystic. At the time period from midnight to 3 a.m., stream velocity rapidly increased in that area, going from an average rate of about 50 gallons a second through the South Fork flood gauges that we have, going up to, in the next 3 hours, 250 gallons per second. In the next 30 minutes, that 250 gallons per second jumped to 125,000 gallons per second, which equates to about 10 foot of flooding in the Kerr County area. However, in the next 30 minutes, that rate increased from 125,000 gallons per second to 900,000 gallons per second, making a storm system pass through the city of Hunt, Ingram, Kerrville, Centerpoint, crossing the Kerr-Kendall County line into the city of Comfort at approximately 1.7 million gallons per second. That storm system continued its path of travel through Kendall County, going to the Kendall-Comal County line and continuing for an additional 27 miles before the Guadalupe River dumps into Canyon Lake. With that, we had approximately a 127-mile area that we needed to work through. And I want to say before I move forward that this is all preliminary flood information, as academics and experts are still trying to make sense and accurately model what happened on the flood event. However, what we do know is that on the morning of the 4th of July, 39 children lost their lives in the initial storm that came through. Those 39 children ranged in ages of 18 months to 18 years old. Additionally, with that, 80 adults were lost. And making this extremely difficult is the 3 primary loss sites that we had during the flood event are all campgrounds that were heavily populated due to the fact that it was the 4th of July and people were trying to get riverfront access to planned 4th of July activities in Kerr County. With that being said, 10 foot of flooding in Kerr County when we were at the 125,000 gallons per second is somewhat usual. That area is prone to flooding. There have been numerous flooding events. However, this flooding event that came through the area was truly off the records. I arrived in Kerrville on the 4th of July, where I've been in the incident command role for the entire time. This is my first 2 days away from there, and thank you, Palantir, for the opportunity. So I'm going to talk about what happened before my arrival on the day of the 4th. At around 4 a.m., local first responders and pre-stage rescue elements activated in response to the flood event. Inaccurate and impartial information dominated the space when we first showed up, but through systematic interviews with witnesses and survivors, as well as listening to 911 emergency calls, we were able to start reconstructing the event, and understandably so, with the impartial and inaccurate information, as the victim's sense of time and space was greatly skewed by the sheer terror of being in a life or death situation, mirrored with the fact that they were working in torrential downpours, unable to see other than quick flashes of lightning that were going through the area at 4 a.m., and completely unable to notice anything except the audible and visual signatures of being up on the second floor or higher elevation of their houses, hearing victims go by in cars with headlights on, screaming for help, and trying to reconstruct what had taken place around them. With that information that we gathered from those survivors and through teams on the ground reporting back information, we were able to realize that the initial modeling on flood levels that we got was inaccurate, and flood levels had been on average 30 to 40 feet as it was going through the South Fork AOR. As that flood continued through the South Fork and met with rock faces and restricted terrain features, reflective pressures pushed the flood waters up to as high as 84 feet in some places. And as that floodplain opened up and came into the floodplain areas near Kerrville, Ingram, and Centerpoint, pushed out sometimes up to a mile from centerline on the river, taking destruction and debris with it. Now, what we were able to do with that information was start tracking and guiding the efforts of first responders, shown behind here, shown behind me in pink, to direct their efforts in our initial early phases of operation. As geography and time increase in any critical event management, specifically a multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency response, we need to effectively manage the distribution of figuring out victims, survivors, and severe property damage across 127 river miles. The need to identify and inform these locations was paramount, and we needed a tool set to accomplish all these tasks systematically without duplicating efforts and avoiding circular reporting consistently. The need for a consolidated common intelligence and common operating picture was very apparent during initial phases of the operation. The DPS tax server and SARCOP software that we're using to track operations was very effective initially. However, these two systems that were the primary sources of information for us were not consolidated, were not federated, and were not able to ingest outside data feeds showing critical information that we needed. For example, maintaining a single source where we could track property damage, property locations, and develop a system for granting and receiving access from property owners to go onto their properties and further assess the damage and search for victims. Through the event, at the end of that first week, extremely chaotic, high volume of casualties coming through the area, we were able to finally be asked by all local, state, and federal leadership, what do you need to continue this colossal task of finding these victims? To Dr. Karp's point, I was one of those young Special Forces soldiers working in Afghanistan that had the fortunate opportunity of utilizing Palantir to inform where my Special Forces team was operating. And I knew that there was one answer to that question. We needed assistance from Palantir to build a common operating picture that we would use to drive future operations. DPS leadership received that request for support. Contact was made between DPS leadership, Mark Bennett, and Lila, and the ball started moving forward and getting Palantir out to Texas. We wrapped up our initial conversations with Palantir and that request for support at about 5 p.m. local time back in Texas. From there, the very next day, engineers flew in from Washington, D.C., New York City, and Rory, Jake, and Patrick joined my team on the ground and were sitting next to me in that EOC by 11 a.m. With that, they built the entire Gaia Foundry instance you've been seeing behind me in less than 48 hours. As that 48-hour time period passed and the instance was fully mission capable, we began integrating other key stakeholders, and this platform became the center of gravity, not just for a sole agency, but for the event overall. With input from our leadership team, ground units, and very critical and very useful injects from the Palantir team, we were able to consistently improve and optimize the platform from that point forward with every operational day to increase our efficiency in the area of operation. We were able to build in systems for indicators and warnings, taking real-time stream information from USGS and multiple other sources, and monitor and utilize that historic data and real-time variables to develop something more than your standard linear regression models, and actually do time series analysis and ARIMA models to figure out where we need to go next and develop a system for what needed to happen as the follow-on rain systems came through the area. As those disparate but unified efforts, we're able to start visualizing the graphics that we had at the micro, meso, and macro level unit of analyses. We were able to begin generating statistical analyses as well as predictive analysis for future operational periods. That has allowed us to synthesize maritime, ground, and aerial sensors to direct maritime and ground teams in their search efforts. The search strategy at this point has been through multiple phases, putting our main search efforts at the highest probability locations, guided by spatial and temporal analysis to place duplicative efforts at all phases of the operation, and be able through one of our chief investigators, Mr. Don Carter, give the families accurate information about the disposition of their loved ones during the event. We were also able to develop a process of cleaning that data, finding where we could give information to those families, and drive that effort forward even further, integrating in intelligence and investigative functions within the team. Palantir has supported us through all 5 phases of the operation, beginning with our hasty search through the area, combing 127 miles in a period of under 3.5 days with approximately 3,000 rescue efforts that were in the area. We're able to generate and manage target intelligence locations based off of reporting back off multiple sensors, go into a very thorough maritime search of the entire affected AOR, and lead into our final phase of operation, where we're working on geophysical data collection sourced from synthetic aperture radar, high density LiDAR, high density and high fidelity visual imagery that's been captured, overlay that with magnetometry, thermal scans, and then use ground sensors with ground penetrating radar, methane and LiDAR to figure out where victims are. So in giving this presentation and saying everything that I've said up here today, I'd like to close out firstly by saying thank you to Dr. Karp and Palantir. Before joining the military, before going into college and grad school, and finding my way into DPS and the Ranger Special Operations Group, I was raised in Kerrville, Texas, where my parents and my grandparents still live, and several close family friends were lost in the event. So from Kerrville and the citizens of Kerr County, citizens of Texas, from the unified command, from the search efforts that have been out there at the local, state, and then national level, as well as the international searchers that have come in to help us, thank you for giving us the unfair advantage as we continue this Herculean task of finding our last 2 victims of the 119 victims total. As we found 117 victims in record time, and really outside, well above center mass for an event like this, we're still not calling this a victory, as we still have 2 victims that are unaccounted for. So to the families of those victims, specifically to the family of Mr. Jeff Ramsey, father who was swept away with his wife on the morning of the 4th, and Seal Stewart, a beautiful young 8-year-old camper at Camp Mystic that we're still looking for. To her parents, Will and Cece, thank you for trusting us with this most important mission that we've had. Thank you for allowing us to bring in all these technology sources to search for your loved one, and giving us the time and space to employ all these assets to bring some resolution. We love you guys. Thank you for trusting us. And thank you to all the people in this room for helping us continue having that unfair advantage and bring these last 2 home. Thank you.
All right, guys. So next thing is the Backstage Pass. I'm not going to be in the Backstage Pass. Neither is Unkit. But Yeah, I don't know who they're gonna have there, but they'll probably have someone talk. This is so blurry. This is
You
so
got to get a microphone. Good Lord.
They'll have someone talking about something, but yeah, I mean, look, this is AIP Con. We'll be back after Backstage Pass. I think it's like 20 minutes, and you'll be able to see what they talk about. And I think there's like 3 or 4 more presentations. And yeah, then I'll be here the whole day. I'll see whatever content I can get. I'm recording a bunch of interviews throughout the day. That'll be up in a couple of probably it'll be up like a Monday or Tuesday. That should be pretty much it. So yeah, Karp interview was awesome. Again, thank you everybody for the super chats and love. I think that was super cool. David, thank you for the $100. Batty, thank you for the 200. Dan, thanks for the gifted 5. Kenneth, thank you for the 100. I mean, it was super awesome. He was really excited to do it. He was really happy to see it. And yeah, it was really cool for him to be part of this like live, authentic stream that we do every single day. So, all right, we'll have Backstage Pass in a bit, and then we'll be back and we'll analyze the other presentations after Backstage Pass. I think this is about 15 to 20 minutes as well.
Hi, everybody. We're very excited to welcome you here today to Backstage Pass, Transforming America's Foundation. My name is Jamie Weber. I'm a hospitalist physician and the Associate Chief Medical Informatics Officer at Tampa General Hospital. We heard a lot of really interesting stories this morning about how AI is transforming industries. And a lot of times we hear a lot of things about AI in very abstract terms. We hear how it's going to change our lives, what might come to pass. But what we're here to talk about today is really how AI is changing industries now. AI is redefining the industries that are the backbone of America. I'm really excited to be here with four other leaders from different industries, including healthcare, waste management, rail, aerospace and defense, and supply chain. We're going to talk today about our...
All right, guys, I just realized that Karp's actually live on TBPN, which is like a technology podcast. So I'm going to go to that real quick. And once that's done, we'll go back to the halftime show. But let me transition over to that real quick.
Inspiration of LLMs are transparency and competence. It broadly defined. They've actually, the big cultural shift on enterprises, people running enterprises believe that this thing should work. I should know the cost of the components in my business to the second. I should know how to rebuild things if there's a macroeconomic trajectory. I should be able to put the bomb on your head and not on his head. Okay, so that basically means every conversation in the future is going to be, you create X value, I'm going to pay you Y. And the central problem a lot of the larger kind of less agile, sclerotic companies have is it's like they can't, it's very hard to move from I get paid because you can't get rid of me to I get paid because you could get rid of me, but you don't want to because you're creating so much value. But that's where the future is going. And like people talk about like, how are we going to, do 10x in revenue, blah, 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 with the same or less people. It's like, yes, but the whole market's going to have to move to value creation. And we're in the business of that and try to do it. It's not.
Yeah. Do you think long term that the gross margins of software companies will change materially because of like LLM inference costs, like token factory costs, that type of thing? Like,
Well, you mean like enterprise software companies?
yeah, I
or
mean, if I look at like the Fortune 500 right now, there's like a set number of gross margin that's out there. Should we expect like gross margin compression based on AI bills, basically?
Well, first of all, I think
Yeah.
let me just give you the trends. I think first
Sure.
of all, skilled workers are going to become more valuable.
Sure.
You're going to be paying them more. They're
Okay.
going to be happier. It's downstream politically, it's very hard to argue for anything but high-end immigration. So like, why do you need more people? Like, we got to make the people we have here work.
Yeah.
So like politically, it's like, I'm an unhappy Democrat, but running around saying, oh, crime isn't an issue when everyone knows crime is an issue is like, it's like suicidal BS, and no one believes it. And now that wokeism is luckily mostly, at least in that way, not as punishing, we can all just admit the obvious.
Yeah.
So like transparency is going to be like, so the people are like, workers are going to become more expensive. The overhead's going to become less. Truly, basically, artist-shaped people are going to be incredibly valuable, and they're going to demand to be very highly paid. So, but the aggregate cost structure will come down, but more importantly, the products you build are going to be much closer to what the market wants in real time.
Yeah.
And then again, just an obvious thing, this is happening. Like, we have 10x growth in America compared to Europe. Same people, same products, same everything. So it's like, and then the other thing, the point that's a little less obvious that I think people ignore is time is not time. We always assume a minute of time is a minute of time. It's not. Like, it's like from the time you want to do something to the time it happens. If that's 10% of the time, you just got a 10x. So it's like, it's like Palantir's not these kind of atrophied companies. It takes them 3 years, 5 years to get a year. It takes us a week to get a year. So it's like, it's like that's actually what explains the numbers in a weird way is, yes, but what if 5 years represents 40 years? What if I'm saying in the next 5 years? It's like the whole problem with the DCF model, actually, that experts love is A, they don't understand product. And then B, they kind of extend the DCF if they like you. So it's like, oh, I like the person. The DCF is super long. Yeah, it's like, give them an extra decade of steak dinners. But the real problem that they somehow don't understand in the DCF amount is a year is not a year for Palantir. Like, a year is like, we don't do holidays. I'm working all the time. I'm orchestrating. Honestly, I sometimes hate the enemies of Palantir, but God, do they get me to go back to orchestration? Because I'm going to fuck these people. and the basic way I'm going to do it is going back to like dyslexic, like organization orchestration of, we're going to have the best products, the best people. I'm going to recruit those people. I'm going to make sure they're the most valuable, and I'm going to put them in enterprises that value us. And if you don't value us, go work with the people that hate us. Try them out.
Yeah. Do you have advice for young people? I mean, you said like artists like people, not literally artists.
Yeah, and you said the company's like an artist colony.
Yeah. Can you just become an artist if you're a young person?
People underestimate like their artistry because like from a young age, you get huge benefits for conforming. And you can say, well, I don't. I mean, the essential advantage of being dyslexic, we can't conform.
Yeah.
So that ends up being a huge, because you just can't. So you're going to have to, so your basic thing you have to emerge, do not conform. And by the way, the people who are telling you simplistic bullshit, that means, like meritocracy isn't going to matter. You're not going to judge all these conspiracies. You can't do wealth accumulation if you're in this country, like in America. I think actually a lot of these things are true in other countries. But in this country, they're teaching you how not to learn, how to be complacent, how to give up your agency, how to fail, and how to blame it on anyone else. And you have to says like all
reject that.
Yeah, reject that. That's kind of, and then you have to really, really look at people and judge them by their fruits. The best way to learn is to look at somebody and say, okay, well, it's like, you work with somebody like the co-founding team at Palantir. So you have Peter, Joe, Stefan, Nathan. Like, part of what made us so good is it's like, okay, you can measure yourself. It's like, when I started at Palantir, I actually because I just wanted to be left alone. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to move to Berlin. I'm going to live a debaucherous life. That was my goal. Like, I'm moving to Berlin. I thought I needed 250K. I was like, 250K is a minimum, $1 million a maximum. Yeah. I'm moving to Berlin. I'm going to like debauchery forever.
Bergheim.
And well, I had to so it's and then
set up a remote office
but like, you then measure yourself and it's like, okay, well, I'm highly differentiated on managing complicated people who have to believe their opinion is their opinion, but still have to build a product that actually delivers value. That's my differentiation. And so like you surround yourself, and then you have to remember the being persuasive and being right are not correlated. So you have to really look at people who are historically right, rebuttably give them the rebuttable presumption that they are right, and work back to discover if they're right or wrong. Not just, and all these things. And like, for example, on the Palantir thing, is a great lesson. Go listen to our critics, whatever critic you love. We're a conspiracy theory. So like you can take the left-wing version, which is like Palantir is stripping you of your civil liberties, which some people on the right believe. Palantir is a Jewish conspiracy run by a mutt somehow. Okay, whatever. It's like, okay, well, go actually, how does the product work? Does the product protect data? How does it protect it? Is it better than any other company in the world at doing this? How do you build a company? Do you think it's just like an allocation based on a conspiracy? Why did we work?
Just pick your conspiracy and that's the strategy.
And then unpack it and learn for yourself. Like, did this work? How did this work? How did they do it? Assume that at every single decision, if it was a decision anyone else would have made, you would not have worked, because that's a commodity. Commodities aren't valuable. And then apply that to your life. What part of this do you understand? Like, what part do you not understand? What part do you understand better than them? What part could you do better than them? And the weird thing about LLM ontology foundry is this actually will work for anyone watching this podcast. If you're watching this podcast and you enjoy this, you've already passed the test. I don't care whether you're a welder, a plumber, a carpenter, an astrophysicist, or somebody who'd like to build a business, or just want to get rich, or you want to get enough money and move somewhere and do what I want to do.
Germany.
It's not the right place anymore. But in any case, but you've already passed that test. Now go out and pass the test for life.
Well, you said Germany's not the right place anymore. Like, what is your current mental model for the state of the world order? Like, is America in decline? Do we need to bring things back? Like, who are the power players? What's
America is power player number one right now, and like all this media BS. It's like you got to compare America to, and you can't compare America to something you're pretending in your head could be America. Compare it to Europe. I don't know. You want to compare it to China? Like, you want to have no rights? Again, I'm actually not anti-Chinese culture, but CCP, it's like compare it to Europe, like no tech industry. Everyone rich was born rich, basically, or with almost no exceptions. The most important Germanic company, I hope someone from Germany is listening to this, kommt aus Palo Alto, is Peter Thiel und ich. So it's like the only German company since SAP that's real. And they won't listen to us. Like, just think about that. You have Peter Thiel, like the most important venture person maybe that's ever lived, co-founder of Palantir, and you have me. It was like somewhat, basic, partially Germanics, did my PhD in German, and you have no tech industry. Wouldn't you have us on fucking speed dial? Like on speed dial. Like, you don't have to listen to what we're saying. You don't have to agree with what we're saying. Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? You're talking to your, like, I don't know, expert that came here and studied us.
Trust the experts.
Trust the experts. It's like, so it's like energy. Like, we're
do you
like,
think they will? Do you think that there's optimism around the idea of
you'd
like
still pick up the phone call, right?
Oh no,
because they could just
I pick up. I pick
you.
up. It's crazy who calls me. It's like, it's honestly like I can't talk out of school. Calls me. You'd be surprised the number of people come, and I begin every call with, "Don't listen to me." Very few people have. I'm going to give you the freak show answer. You probably want to ignore it. This is what I think, and they're like, "Huh? Okay, okay." Some call back, some don't. But of course I would. I have a lot of. Honestly, we have a huge retail. We have a crazy thing about Germany is a huge retail investor base. Sure. They don't admit it in public, but in private, they're like, keep going. No, I'm just saying. The point I'm saying is, it's like, so then it's like energy, technical talent, understanding how to manage the technical talent. That's an art. Like, we have the right venture people, the right entrepreneurs, the right spirit. We have generations of people who are entrepreneurial here. It's like
no tall poppy syndrome.
It's funny you mentioned that. That's we're very well. This is the thing. We have to fight for this. Because that no tall poppy. What that basically means, and in every, people may not realize this, but in every other culture I know of, and I lived abroad in Germany, Europe, incredible cultures. But if your head sticks above the line, it gets cut off. There's one culture where that doesn't happen. It's here. The only thing is we have to fight for that, because the thing that unifies the woke left and the woke right is they don't like the consequences of meritocracy. They want to work back to the inputs. So, and that like just will screw society. It's like, you've got to be able to allow people to succeed wherever they go. Now, I was kind of still progressive, even though I believes it. I super would like the inputs to be fair, but the outputs, those are the outputs.
It's the result of freedom.
Okay. Last question. We got to get you out of here.
I'm being
I
pulled.
walked by your office. There were some kettlebells. What are the kettlebells for?
Oh, okay. Well, this is slightly long. I'll give you a short version.
Please.
So to be a cross-country skier, you've got to train year-round.
Yeah.
So you need substantial VO2 max, and actually, you need to be strong per unit of weight.
Sure.
So as an example, I do 3 days a week of kind of above and below lactate threshold running, but mostly pretty far, and then once a week kind of at.
Yeah.
And then I do 2 days of strength, 1 day of like endurance strength. And currently, the thing I'm actually really proud of is I just started doing hang from a bar, so dead hang, like 4 months ago, and I hit 4 minutes and 36
4
seconds.
minutes and 30 seconds.
4 minutes and 36 seconds.
What's the goal for the end of the year?
What do we do?
Well, actually, my goal for the you
gotta hit the soundboard.
This isn't just money. This is no. I mean, my goal for the year was for actually the next 12 months was 4 minutes.
Okay.
But then there's
That's
the number.
So we got to
two-
get those numbers up.
Yeah. Well, no, but the number two, the second best mountain climber in Norway. I don't know if you know his name,
No.
but I have a picture. He did 4 minutes and 22 seconds. So
Ooh,
had-
there you
Okay,
go.
that's
There you
just-
go.
what can I do?
Well,
So-
thank
Did
you
it
so much
part
for
time.
taking the time. This was
Thank you for
fantastic.
having us.
Bye.
Appreciate your work.
We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Congrats.
Yeah, you too. Congrats to you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. We will bring in our next guest in just a few minutes. We have.
Can you
Dan
imagine?
from
Can you imagine
Palantir.
the
4 minutes and 36 seconds. That's quite a lot. They can see you now. You're like, dude, you know the number one comment? Do you know the number one thing they've been commenting about?
Is it the camera?
No, that, but also your beard.
Oh, interesting.
You got a good beard.
There was a fire alarm late last night, and so I didn't have time to do.
No, it's good.
the
It's a
trim,
nice
but-
thick beard, but that's good. I got to get my beard to grow out to that at one point. All right, so that was Karp on TBPN. That's another technology podcast that's out there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to aim for 4 minutes now. That's what we're gonna have to do as well. Again, this is Ankit, guys. He is a forward deployed engineer at Palantir. Is that what you would call yourself, a forward deployed engineer?
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that after a while your title doesn't mean anything. Our titles are made up when we recruit, and they become more made up as you spend time here. I think it's more of finding the thing. This is what I tell people when I do onboarding. It's like, hey, find the thing that you're uniquely good at and is valuable for the business, and lean into that. So for internally, we end up just using proper nouns a lot, which is just like, hey, we need a myth-shaped person for this kind of thing. And so I do still very much resonate with the forward deployed engineer role, though.
But I mean, it's solving problems. That problem solver, you know.
Exactly.
No matter what you want to call it. This is his Twitter, guys. You can follow him. He doesn't really make a lot of content because he's kind of busy solving problems for clients. But that's his Twitter that you can follow if you want to stay updated with him. Okay, so having said that, we are gonna go back to the halftime show, which I think should be ending out like in another couple minutes, and then I think they have 3-4 more presentations to end out the AIP Con.
You're going to actually see some of that later today from the Champions Relay, where we are going to demonstrate that software solution we've created. Now, those two things combined already in just 3 or 4 short months that we've worked with Palantir have saved us a projected 10 to 15,000 hours of engineering time per year in just those two products alone. And so we're looking forward to a very bright future because there's a lot more savings ahead of us, but also we're going to be able to deploy these solutions to the Department of Defense a lot faster and put this country at the leading edge of both technology and delivery.
Thanks, Nick. My name is Ryan Goodwin.
This one's pretty interesting because I think having them talk about the speed of execution of getting to that deleted hours, he was mentioning 10 to 15,000 hours of deleted time. I mean, that's time that you can then go and do the more ambitious things. So I think that's something I'm really excited about, getting people to use AI for. It's like free up your time to go work on the thing that you are uniquely good at, go achieve the mission of your organization. So.
And that's kind of the mission of AI FDEs as well, right? It's just more time. Because if an AI FDE can solve a minuscule problem that you would spend 30 minutes solving, those 30 minutes for you are way more valuable.
Totally. And this is one of the interesting things of this AIP kind of actually, as we started rolling out AIFD to customers, I think some of the best users of AIFD are actually not Palantirians. They're actually customers because they get just so much leverage out of it. Yeah. It's one of these interesting things where the value out of AI products is not very evenly distributed right now. I think you have to really figure out how to make it work in your workflow. You have to adjust to a different way of working. And if you can do that, you get a ton of value. And so there are a couple of people here who've actually replaced vendors that they were considering buying from. It's still early stages, but they're saying, hey, it'd be pretty expensive per seat to have some of this this software, but maybe I can get AIFT to build it for me, and they can put together an ontology, and then it can go and put together custom applications, things like that. And so pretty exciting to see.
That also gets them to actually want to deepen the customer relationship with you guys further if they get a little taste of it with AIFT.
Exactly.
All right, back to the halftime show.
I'm Senior Director of Centralized Model. So I've been impressed how fast they can get to that point and make a tool that helps us do that.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, I would say how quickly they're able to come in, understand, learn our business, and be able to put solutions to that. That's remarkable, and it makes our frontline employees more comfortable with those solutions and being able to implement those quicker, making those decisions. So we're able to grab that value a lot quicker than any other scenario. So I agree.
Absolutely. Building those tools with the front line makes them sticky. It really allows the teams to pick up, use them, and use them in their workflow without having to make a lot of changes, without having to do a lot of digging. It's a really great partnership. We're all really excited to have Palantir in our corner. We're gonna throw it back.
Okay, looks like it should be back in a couple minutes. And then we'll see the final presentations to wrap it up for today. This is the stage, guys, that you're looking at right here. It's like really incredible. Yeah, it's like a movie theater. And it looks really cool. So it's kind of a new idea about it. Can you speak a little bit to the theme of this AIP Con, 8th Wonder of the World?
Yeah, I think what we're really seeing is this kind of transformative effect that's coming with software now as a lever for every organization. That's I think it's I was talking yesterday with one of the attendees here that is a construction company, and they were talking about how it's, even though the thing that they are most passionate about, the thing that they focus all their time and energy in making good, is that production of the construction materials, as well as actually building houses. In this case, they were talking about how they still have all of these inefficiencies in that process, and to let them do that more effectively, technology is the biggest lever. So it is really a marvel that across all of these different industries, it is something where it's still moving the needle so much.
I was speaking to the Tomorrow.io senior leaders today. I don't know if you guys remember that partnership. It was 3 months ago. It's a weather tracking platform, but not just your basic, hey, is it 75 degrees out today? It's more so they're working with Fortune 50 companies to like simulate predictive models on what the weather could be like or what the weather will be like based on the accuracy of their data. And that's very, very valuable to a lot of companies that obviously depend on the weather in terms of how their operations will like proceed. So I got his information. He might be on the channel in a couple of weeks. I mean, this guy was just an incredible communicator on how Foundry is the backbone for the moat of their company, which is data, their satellites, their ability to collect that data and then ontologize that data to then create those use cases. That's a big deal. And he's also a heavy NVIDIA investor personally. So he was just telling me about the GPU revolution, and they work with NVIDIA to 50x their weather models. Like literally last week, he was like, NVIDIA 50x our weather accuracy models. And it's just like the age of AI and the use cases. When people say it's a bubble, it's like when you hear from those people that are actually using it, when you hear from these people at AIP Con, it's just hard to think it's bubblish versus it's exciting. And it could be the 8th wonder of the world in regards to the software revolution.
One of the comments there was interesting of, hey, can you put Palantir software on a robot? One of the demos that we have here is a Palantirian whose hobby project is really doing that edge computing on robots. And so it's being able to go in and say, I think today he has a a set of robotic arms that are using edge deployed ML models.
Is there a demo of that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
You should,
Okay,
you should check
cool.
it out.
Yes.
And so being able to go in and say, yeah, you can go in and not only have it be something that is used for decision making in the kind of back office or desk scenarios, but also have it happen on at the edge. And being able to deploy that ontology to the edge is something that we're really investing in. And so on the product side, we're going to see a bunch of new things there, but also we already have versions of this that are working. So it's, I think the demo yesterday is moving some blocks, but you can totally imagine how that changes from like, hey, applying that edge RL model to actually translate the vision system into actions of what the robotic arm is doing, and then still tie it into the job tracking and core ontology ideas of like, well, what is this robot as part of my end-to-end like factory or something like that. And so the demo is really cool, and we have at some customers work around this as well.
Right. And when you hear people say like AI is fake, you're in it every day. Like, is your gut reaction like they just don't fully get what's happening here?
I honestly don't blame people for those kinds of claims, because I think there is a big range of what people claim AI can do, and then how to actually put into production. There's a big gap. I think what you see is people saying, hey, this is going to delete all jobs and it can just do everything for you. And then you go in and try it and you see, I don't know how to bridge this. I don't know how to bridge the gap between these two things. But on the other hand, when you go into when you have all of these things that can actually take AI and bring it into production, this is the ontology layer. This is the ability to actually go and build feedback loops and construct the system that can bring it into your decision-making process. That means you can start to actually see some of that value. It's the deployment of AI as part of your labor force, which means you can free up your human labor force to do the things that they are best at. And so I think I understand where people are coming from with that, but also the proof's in the pudding. Everything we are seeing here from customers is them actually doing this for real work. And so the question that I like to ask is, hey, would you be mad if we took this away?
Yeah.
And as soon as the answer switches to yes, that's when we know we have something real.
Yeah. When people cannot live without the product, then it likely means the product is delivering outcomes. Speaking of a company that's getting some outcomes, this is the nuclear company that is presenting on stage with their latest partnership with Palantir.
Site, working to execute that job, managing it with paper. We're the largest economy in the world. We talk about innovation, and we're giving our frontline teams wagons and wheelbarrows of paper. No more. So the nuclear company a few years ago formed with the sole purpose in life to deploy nuclear safer, higher quality, and faster and lower cost than anywhere in the world. We have a lot of companies in the US right now designing reactors. Those are all great reactor types. The reactor is not the problem. About 20 to 30% of the total project cost of a nuclear power plant is the reactor. Legacy designs in the US are incredible. Some of the highest operating performance around the world. The new designs coming to market are going to be incredible. The problem is we need to be able to deploy those reactors at a scale that's almost unconscionable for this room. We have a president that set out a goal to build 300 gigawatts by 2050. That's a goal to keep us up with the demand of advanced manufacturing, electrification of everything, and to this room, AI. I just told you 2 reactors cost $36 billion, took 10,000 people on a construction site. How are we going to slash that? My client's the frontline worker. Probably got some investors and board watching today. I don't work for you. I work for that man and woman waking up at 3 a.m. in a construction trailer. And it's our job to give them tools and technology to win. We can't just talk about the American spirit and not give our people the technology they need. With Palantir, we're going to do that, and we're doing it in a way that's going to completely shock this world. Right here, what you're looking at is mission control. So the same way you're launching rockets into space, we're designing a control room where our essentially SEAL Team 6, our best operators, are going to be. They're going to be managing that project virtually from afar. As we have multiple projects going, we're going to be looking at the budget, productivity, Everything is running through that data lake. That data lake's going to have LLMs and AI on top of it. My frontline teams, those men and women waking up at 3 a.m. in a construction trailer, are going to be getting predictive analytics. Supply chains delayed the night before. We need you to redirect. We have corrective action, quality control from the day before. We need to redirect teams. Zooming from mission control down to project, you're zooming in fleets across the country. Now we've got localized construction teams. Me and my wife got engaged on the last construction site. It's unacceptable the way we're building here in this country. It's unacceptable. We're going to show you what a modern construction site looks like. You're going to come into our construction trailers. It's going to look like this, not a bunch of paper on the floor. And we're going to take that budget and we're going to slash it in half. We're going to take that time, we're going to slash it in half. We're going to take the people from 10,000 down to 5,000. And we can do this with technology. It's this worker first mentality. My client is the front line employee. How can I reduce the friction from their life? How can I take every piece of element that they need to worry about every day away so that they're getting predictive analytics in real time? Construction foreman, we're going to have drones with LiDAR. Welds are off. What might have taken 3 weeks to find welds that are off, drone will find it. They're going to let the construction foreman know in an earpiece in real time. Immediately, we're going to take teams, corrective action, redo those welds. What might have cost tens of millions, if not more, in weeks or months in delay can be done in hours. Why are we building stuff like we live in 1985? Well, we're not going to. Traceability, full transparency. This nuclear industry, all you're going to hear about is everybody blaming the regulator. It's the biggest victim Eeyore industry I've ever seen. The regulator's not our problem. We have the safest nuclear on planet Earth. You know how many people have died in the US of nuclear radiation due to power plants? 0.0 ever. That's because of our regulator. We're going to give them radical transparency in real time. All the data we have, let them come in real time and challenge us on how we can get better. Every decision we make, every change we make will be in that data repository. The last project that was built down in Georgia, hundreds of thousands of pages of documents managing the project with paper. Later this month or next month, there's a state here in the US that is about to select an awardee to go finish what is going to be about a $20 billion nuclear power plant, a site that got abandoned and was unable to be completed. The state might pick us. I hope, we've shown them our capabilities. In less than 2 years, because of Palantir, because of this technology, and because of the team I've been able to hire to partner with the Palantir team, we are confident we can give those frontline employees not only the tools and that Iron Man suit to go build on time, on budget, but we're going to do it in the safest possible way. The stakes are too high. If you're a sports fan, we're in the fourth quarter. We're in that second inning or the ninth inning. Our children, that American dream we talk about, it's fading. And China is just beating us. They are winning. So to all the tech bros and all the big CEOs at Fortune 500 companies, it's time for us to work together, leave our ego at the door, be a little bit humbled, and understand that it is possible, but right now we have a long hill to climb. We're not only going to build these power plants low cost and fast. These are power plants that are going to last 100 years. They're going to outlive me and my team, and my grandkids or kids or your kids are going to be benefiting from the work we're doing. Thank you to the Palantir team for supporting what we're doing, and look forward to inviting you all onto our construction site later this year or early next year. Thank you.
So that one was quite passionate. I would imagine that you can see the passion in some of these customers. I actually got to talk to that guy 30 minutes ago, and there is a lot of passion there. So someone asked a question, Ankit, about competition. What do you consider Palantir's main competition?
Yeah, I think what we see most often is the competition is people building their own things in-house. I think people, these are long IT projects that take many years, and it's really one of those things where it becomes a source of dread for the business as they try and say, hey, we need some amount of leverage for this workflow. Take the American Airlines example of, hey, we have to go in and improve how we do planning or bring planning and operations closer to each other, or any of the other examples from today. The question then becomes, all right, well, is this going to take us 1 year projected and then 5 years actual to go in and build out something internally or cobble together some combination of available products to turn this into something? Or can we use something like the ontology and Foundry and AIP to build that much faster? Usually these 1 year projects can be turned into sometimes days to get that first V0, but usually weeks to get into something that people can start using and making decisions on. And then translating that into that's what the competition really is. And increasingly, this is why we've been leaning so heavily into our dev platform, because we understand why those projects take so long. What we want to bring those the people who are working on those kinds of projects into the fold, which is saying, hey, instead of tripping up on the things that end up taking a bunch of time, like, hey, how do I cobble together this disparate set of sources? How do I do it securely? How do I actually go in and make sure that we are able to present this in a way that our users can get benefit from it and still build new use cases that use that same shared information? That's the kind of stuff that we can take care of for them, but we still give them all the controls that they want. Things like, hey, you can actually use whatever tools you want to do. You can use our APIs and SDKs to build in whatever environment you're comfortable with or whatever environment you prefer. And then turn that into something where instead of it being, oh, should I build a custom thing because that I can express more of my opinion of how it should be, or should I use something like Palantir to do this? Those are actually the same thing. It's like, why don't you build a custom thing and you identify where you're differentiated on that, and then go in and say, all right, for the things that we're not going to be differentiated on, right? Like, I don't want to figure out storage and things like that. I don't want to figure out hosting. I don't want to figure out any of that. That's the kind of stuff that our dev platform can take care of for you.
And I think philosophically, what Karp was talking about is how can you differentiate a product to such an extent that it becomes one of one, right? And so then the question in these sales meetings when it comes to competition becomes, you can go with these guys, but this is something different. Yeah. It's something custom. It's different. Yes, we're not going to recreate storage for you, but the thing that actually will deliver outcomes is differentiated, and that should be enough theoretically for the product to sell itself.
Yeah, and I think this is where, especially when you go from not just the first project that you take on, but the second, third, fifth, it's, should those all take the same amount of time, or should the second one take 1/10 of as much time, and the third one take even less, and the fourth one take even less? And that's a lot of what our customers who invest up front see. And it's like, that doesn't mean the first project takes more time. In fact, often the first project is still much faster than going the totally custom build it in-house route. But it's hard to believe without seeing it. I think some of the cool things we're doing now, like AIFD, can actually let you see it much faster because it can just go build it for you. Like, instead of talking about, hey, should we do a 6-month pilot to go and do this, and is it even worth investing in a pilot? It's like, oh, why don't you give us 6 hours? Let's do it. And boot camps were one step.
That was the whole boot camp revolution. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Boot camps were one step in this direction, but could we take it even further? Can we actually build out some more expansive things using AIFD? So that was definitely something that people, that's what we're seeing more and more now.
All right, back to AIP Con. We'll be back in a bit.
And also optimize our processes. So, sounds like a great opportunity for an AIP powered Foundry application, don't you think? Well, we thought so. So let's take a closer look and join the team in Flint, Michigan to see what's going on today. Welcome to the JIT Control Tower, where operations teams start their day. The control tower is a real-time bird's eye view of Lear's operation. On the left, we see the production line status. It's a continuous influx of orders and deliveries. And on the map, we see a high-level routing of incoming material from Tier 2 suppliers located across North America. These are components and subsystems en route from other Lear sites or other third-party suppliers. So how do we do it? How do we orchestrate the convergence of a continuous flow of customer demand with the right material and the right resources on hand exactly at the right time? We do this through dynamic production scheduling. To optimize production scheduling, we combine the expertise of our operations team and our engineering team with Foundry's AIP horsepower. In this view, we're experiencing the Kanban board. This is a pipeline of activities and actions that together execute to a schedule that our teams monitor. During a shift, dynamic line scheduling is informed through the integration of multiple applications. If you remember those use cases I mentioned earlier. These applications reconcile things like inbound material availability, real-time production throughput, and finished good inventory capacity. At the most left is our exceptions board, and our planners spend their time there, interfacing, triaging, and closing concerns in material availability or production alerts, anything that may impact our most time-sensitive deliveries. And our teams are trained to react to exceptions. At times, our customer demand is within that 4-hour window that they set. This means customers are asking us to break that schedule that we planned and expedite what we all call a hot job. AIP alerts us now of a hot job, and our ops team engages to assess the best alternatives within the schedule to deliver. Planners run the AI agent, our scheduling agent, and it's powered to assess our bill of materials and standard labor content involved. The scheduling agent offers options to allocate the job during the shift. The resulting impact to the schedule and inventories on hand is considered. So I point out a hot job as an example. It's a perfect example of how AIP and the Lear team up on the production floor. Foundry delivers the decision layer, while the plant operations team brings practical product and supply chain and manufacturing know-how. Engineering assesses complexity through simulation, while Foundry ingests inputs, finds the best slot, and makes a proposal. Last, operations reviews the plan, considers the next best alternative, and approves or escalates if needed. When ready, the job is placed and written back to Lear's MES system. As we build the JIT control tower and new AI agents, we have our global manufacturing team in mind. We just reviewed one line in one plant. Multiply that by hundreds of plants and as many operations teams making those thousands and thousands of decisions daily. I find the most rewarding part of deploying Foundry applications are the aha moments, and we all have them. It's the moment a production planner realizes he no longer must spend hours each day poring over Excel spreadsheets and on conference calls, reconciling on-hand inventory with his Mexican counterparts. And it's the moment the plant manager realizes she now has a digital assistant supporting her ability to execute more effectively in her 24-hour-a-day, 5-day-a-week operating rhythm. In conclusion, Foundry allows us to focus on what matters, keeping our plants running smoothly and delivering the highest quality product to our customer. And many thanks to the Palantir team for supporting us along the way as we solve for our greatest opportunities. Thank you so much.
Please welcome from Hospital for Special Surgery Chief Digital and Technology Officer, Ashish Barad.
Hello, everybody. So I am Dr. Ashish Barad. I'm a practicing physician for roughly 20 years now. You know, with that being said, the work we're doing with Palantir is really exceptional. I can't wait to dive in from that perspective. There's an interesting fact that I want to open with that you may not know. So since I started practice roughly 20 years ago, physician productivity has dropped roughly 13%. So just think about that for a second. Nursing, even more significant, right? So I did a time study recently. Our nurses spend roughly 20% of their shift with their patients.
All right, guys, I have
lot of
to interrupt the live stream again because we have two special guests after Dr. Karp that are joining the live stream right here. I think a lot of you guys have been waiting to hear from them for a while. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two of the people that are really building this commercial business for Palantir. We have Ted Mabry and Kevin Kalowski. Thank you for being here.
What's happening?
All right, so we're all here. We are live. Some of you guys might have heard of these gentlemen before. I know Ted did that interview with Karp when his book came out, and that's where a lot of people saw you guys. But yeah, before we get into some questions, just a brief introduction of who you are and what do you do at Palantir. We'll start with Ted.
Yeah, Ted Mabry. I lead the commercial business, so the non-government part of the business. Been at Palantir for 15 years, doing this with KK basically my whole life. I know a lot about Palantir, not much about anything else.
Same, pretty much. Let's see. I've been here about 15 years. I came here a few months after Ted did. I used to work for, one of our investors, Peter Thiel, at his investment funds, was sort of an investor before coming on full time. I think when we got here, we had about, I think just north of $30 million of revenue total. Wow. We more or less had like a couple of customers we weren't really allowed to talk about. No. And we wanted to take, what we had learned at these places into the non government sector. And so, we started on that venture. I think in some ways we probably had, we thought we knew more than we did. But we sort of built it, in some ways really customer by customer. And it's been a lot of fun.
So let's get started with this. The commercial business on Palantir has grown exponentially. You were here when they were doing 30. Now you guys just crossed $1 billion in total revenue. US commercial is growing like crazy. Ted, we'll start off with you. What has it been like to really build a culture of winning when it comes to commercial growth? And I guess the broader question is, why are you guys winning so much in the AI software space when it comes to US commercial?
I think the primary reason we're winning is that kind of and everything kind of flows downstream from it, of which there's many, but the thing we're focused on most is how deeply we can align with our customers winning. And so the rate at which we win is literally defined by the rate at which our customers win. Yep. And we got that a little bit for free from a cultural perspective because our first customers were people who needed to come home safely. And then our job on the commercial side is to basically have that same ethos and to build a business where if our customer wins, we win. And then the products that we have to build are singularly accountable to, are we building the product that enables them to win? And are we building the company that enables them to win? And that was a very unorthodox way to build a company. We were, of course, criticized for a long time with doing it, where we're a very oddly proportioned company that tends to have very deep relationships and relatively few relationships with customers. But I think that stimulus and then the people you hire that want to work in that environment, the products that you build in order to do that forces us to build a very different software stack than anybody else that's building a conventional software business. It turns out that as the world with the AI revolution starts to hold software to much greater account, like this is no longer a back office function. This is no longer a modernize the existing on-premise stack in the cloud. This is my competitive advantage and my ability to thrive is going to depend on how well my technology serves my business mission. You've seen the world come to us and start to realize and understand these things that we've been working on for a very long time from an infrastructure perspective and company perspective and talent perspective, and figuring out how you actually build those products, which requires an immense amount of taste on what you do that's specific at the edge, what gets generalized back into the product, how you organize around that, being willing to bet on our customers in very significant ways where we really concentrate our resources, our dedication to it. And so I think that whole ethos of if we are aligned with our customers and they win, we win. What's the company and products that you build in order to enable that? And then all of a sudden in this moment in time, that's what everyone wants.
Well, and why so much lately, I think is part of your question. Yeah. I mean, it's the speed at which we're helping customers win and in the size that we're helping them win by, I think has changed massively just this year. I think a lot of the things, you have a lot of customers talking today about just some of the results that they've delivered. Customers we've been with, for 10 years, and just the pure acceleration that we've seen in the work with AIP, with the connection of ontology to large language models, and the amount of just acceleration any human can get from using the product has just been massive this year.
Yeah, riffing on that, the speed and ambition from our customers has grown really dramatically.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you have to have the product, you have to productize these things so that you can meet their most exigent problems, start to build a relationship, trust, and help them see that they can view technology differently. And then when they see it, and you have visionary leaders who understand that they need to rebuild their business about it, the rate at which they are moving and pulling us in dramatic ambition in order to say, like, I can use this to literally win, like outcompete, completely change the financial structure of the company. And I think that is probably the thing that right now in this moment in time is kind of most unique and flows into our business. But our customers are way more ambitious than they ever have been before.
I think that's what's really exciting about Palantir. Like, even these 5 minutes of you guys talking, everything you guys are talking about is about the customer. And it is very rare to find a company that truly gives a shit about their customer. It is a core KPI for both of you guys internally and sort of academically. How much do our customers speak about us to us and publicly to get us to feel that they're actually getting the results that we're delivering?
Yeah, I mean, we have the common trope, right? It's like, if you aren't talking about, if your customer CEO isn't talking about what Palantir's delivered from you in their earnings call, then we're failing at our deployment. Yeah. Or like the internal, and it's like, are we signing up? Why are we not working on the right problem? Why aren't we working on that problem? Is it not valuable enough? Are we not executing fast enough? Like, why is it not the most important thing that is happening to the company? That's what we're accountable to.
Boot camps kind of changed the entire trajectory of the company. I know you were one of the pioneers of that as well, KK. Can you take us back to June of 2023? How did that happen?
I mean, I don't know. We sort of just started doing it. And, you know, one of the things I think we saw was that we could deliver in a short timeline, and that asking our customers to go embark on a multi-month pilot maybe was asking a lot of them when we could show them results quicker. So I think we put a ton of R&D, a ton of work into lowering the barrier for someone to try the product. And I think from hearing us talk about it, it sounds a little unbelievable, like that the technology could do this, that us with the technology and our customers' ambition can actually accomplish the ambition in particularly in the timeline that we're saying.
Well, it sounds fake.
It doesn't. Yeah. So if you don't see it, if you don't experience it, it is very hard to believe. And so I think we've put a ton of effort, ton of time, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, into like trying to lower the barrier to people for people to just try the product, experience it, feel it, see it with their data, with their decisions, see themselves and their people working on it. And that goes a long way. You can't unsee it. Like if you try the product, you can't unsee it. And I think one thing we've been doing a lot of lately is also just trying to just go much bigger out of the gates. I think one thing that made the bootcamp great was like a customer could try, you know, a use case, an example in a siloed environment and sort of see the technology. But one thing we're just pushing for now, and it's just being accepted pretty rapidly in the marketplace, is just really, you know, sell the customers what we really want them to buy, which is change your entire organization, change a department. And we can do that, you know, with the boot camp. We could do it in a few weeks, certainly inside of 30 days.
But that's not easy to sell. Like a paradigm shift for a company is not necessarily easy.
Well, I think that like people are now just seeing other customers talking about it. Like if you look at some of these presentations today, you could see it's possible, right? I'm not so unlike these places. And so the idea that we can in a few weeks show them like the path and the plan and the vision is very much within scope. And we need to, you know, be disciplined about really recommending the big thing. But I'm just finding more and more that that's what customers want to see. They want to see the big recommendation.
And I think the thing that's so important about it is like the technology is really only understood experientially. And there are things that build on it, right? But it's, if you want to talk about it or you want to try and fit it into previous boxes, you aren't going to discover how to actually maximize utilization of it. Mm-hmm. And so all of the kind of almost like filibustering, like get AI ready, talk about these things, how does it fit into an architecture? Where does AI live in an organization? Does it live with IT? Does it live with the data science teams? Does it live with a digital team, with a business? Is like, those are really hard questions. The one question is, it definitely doesn't live with the existing org structure that you had before it existed. Like this is a reformulation of it that's one of the things we're seeing with American corporations much more so than European corporations, is like they are reformulating their business the way they organize around
it's
things.
like, what are we competing against? What are we selling against? It's some version of someone telling either themselves or being told by somebody else that you're sort of not ready yet.
Yes.
You know, Palantir's here, but we got to get ready. AI is great, but we got to get ready. And that's just, I don't know if it's a lie, but it's wrong. And we can show people that with this set of technology, you could get massive results at your current state.
Yeah. It's like you're not ready, or just think of like the enterprise application of the consumer technology, which is basically like desktop productivity tool. And it's like nice and that's fine. And that is all that it is, but that is not the foundation to completely transform the economics. That's not the revolution of this thing. And you have to bring that to life and show that it's like, okay, you're getting into the guts of integrating and automating processes that are high stakes, oftentimes lives at risk, regulatory risk, compliance. Can you do that? Can you prove the auditability of it? Can you do that with a human loop? Can that get better over time?
That's not a chatbot.
That's not a chatbot, and that's intimidating if you can't live it. Because, oh gosh, we have to think about committees and policies and getting our data ready and all these different things. And all that is a filibuster for not having a product to be able to deliver it today. And then so you just have to show it.
Yep.
You guys have roughly 900 customers. Some of the competitors in the big data space have 10, 15,000. You obviously have taken a step where let's go deep versus wide because of how much you care about outcomes. How do you think of the trajectory of that? Is that the right way to build a generational software company?
I think so. And right now I'd say like that we would double down on that. So I think like the conventional wisdom would be like, okay, you were crazy once, now do it normally. I think we're discovering it's like, no, we did it once and now we need to do it again, and perhaps even in a more extreme way. And that's just driven by, it's just empirically, our most ambitious customers are compounding their ambition and then compounding on it again, and then compounding on it again. And so it's like, how much are you fighting friction to try and go sell something incrementally into an org that's not ready, that doesn't want to adapt it, that isn't going to move and build on it? What is the return on level of effort for us with trying to do something at surface level broadly? It's not very high.
Yeah.
And it is so high when you have alignment. And when we have alignment, we treasure it, and we will bet our company on our customers' ability to mobilize.
And in that frame, we're the only game in town. There is no comparison to doing what we're doing. Like the combination of delivering on value in the time frame that we're doing that. Like if you want to use, like connect the data of your institution and the operations of your institution and run them better with AI in the speed at which we're going to do it, there's nobody else.
Right.
And in fact, I would say is also in that what that's allowing you, one of the things that's new now is like, it's also allowing us to partner really successfully with SAP, with Databricks, with.
Yeah, how did that happen? Like, why are these legacy software companies coming to you guys at this point now? Like an SAP, like what's the story behind that? Why do they want to work with Palantir?
Faster, like their products, some of the first customers that came to us were very focused on, was like, we like these products, we're going to keep using these products, but if we could migrate to them faster from multiple systems to a single system, or from our on-prem system to the cloud system, and then if we could do more agentic AI work with the Palantir stack, in other words, these were Palantir customers already,
right?
Gosh, we'd save a lot of money, it would happen a lot faster, and our business would run better. And those were the first many that we did, or the first kind of, I don't know, say dozen, were all kind of customers that we already had.
Yeah.
And the customer knew what the value was. And so by getting together and talking to the folks at SAP, we sort of could see that there actually was, there was a better together story, because more or less the customer was demanding it.
Yeah. There's an AI revolution going on. Dr. Karp says Europe is not embracing that revolution. How do you guys think geographically the expansion of not only just Palantir's business, but AI in general? Why aren't some countries embracing it like the United States?
I don't feel like I have the anthropologic wisdom of our dear leader, but I can just tell you what happens empirically, right? It's like, how fast do they move? How plastic are they? How ambitious are they? And so if you have a great meeting and then the next meeting gets scheduled for the next day, that's very different than if it gets scheduled for 3 weeks later or after summer vacation. When you succeed, does it then say, okay, now we've seen this, we need to take it everywhere tomorrow? Or is it, okay, like let's keep operate. Well, now we need to decide where it lives, and so we need to go like into a cave and like come up with a plan and not do it. And so that experiential difference on pace, creativity, ambition is just with no opinion. And I basically have no opinion other than what sits in our face every day.
Right.
And it's just moving so much faster here.
Salesforce. So when not Salesforce the company, but having an actual Salesforce in 2022, we did a podcast every single week called Palantir Weekly, and we still do it, not literally every week anymore. But the biggest critique that all of us had in 2022 is retail investors are like, these guys can't sell the fucking product. Like it's supposed to be some amazing product, but they're not selling it. That has changed, obviously, based on what you guys have described, with relatively, as per Karp's words on the last earnings call, not that much of an increase in the sales force. How do you guys philosophically think of people picking up the phone and calling versus doubling down on what you guys are doing right now?
I think there's a big piece of just, educating the market, reaching out to people, finding the right human to talk to, allowing them to find us more easily. That is kind of a big piece. I think our sales team has done really, really well. I would say, like, pound for pound, probably the best sales team in the world. Like, I don't, it's sort of hard. There's not that, I don't know what the number is, but it's not very big. And it's like we talked to some, other companies, and like I've seen a lot, I've been here 15 years. I talked to a lot of the investors early on, and like the number of times that we were told that we basically needed to double our total company headcount,
Right.
and that doubling needed to be salespeople. I don't know, a lot. And it sort of made sense in some ways, but we kind of also knew it wasn't really going to work. It didn't create the alignment with the customers that we needed.
Right.
So, we kind of did it our way, and it's working really well. And yeah, I don't know. I think our sales team is really, really strong if you just account for the numbers and the way we're doing it and how hard it is to sell here versus other places. One thing I found, it's like, it's like a lot of things we do at Palantir. It's like, it's sort of better to hire people and train them.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, some things that is, say maybe hiring a super experienced place that maybe learned to do things the wrong way. And so I think it's worked, and I think we've been doing more, and I think they've done like a really good job.
I think another way you have to understand it is like, and why we're different on it is just the degree of where you are in the spectrum of optimism versus cynicism on the value of your software. And we are incredibly optimistic about the value of our software, which means that we like to bet on depth and bet on people who are going to wield it in order to like really win. The typical software, every software company that you're supposed to build is very cynical about it. It can't be that valuable, so I have to sell it 10,000 times because it's never that valuable once. Right. And so you end up with like, it's just a very cynical, and you end up with these parasitic mental models, parasitic businesses, like this kind of, if it can't be that valuable, so there's only one business to build.
It's extremely hard to hire a salesperson out of an organization like that.
Yeah.
Because one, you might think that they have a skill set, but it doesn't work here. Two, you might think that they have a Rolodex, but I would argue in that frame, their Rolodex is burnt. Like none of their customers trust them.
And so then in our case, it's like the small sales force, and the results of it is you end up, there's like feature and bug of, so you don't sell to everyone you could right now.
Right.
But the right people find you, the people that want to engage, it's a meaningful project to engage with us, right? We're not trying to make it easy to buy the widget that sits there and then parasitically sells it 10,000 times. We're saying like, no, if you're really going to do this, this is what it takes to really do it. That is a trust conversation. That's a sophisticated conversation. And so that kind of benefit is like a lot of it is just rooted in like a single deployment.
Yeah.
Can materially move our business. And then also it sets a reference point for like, what is Palantir going to be in the market? And we do intend to be ubiquitous. I just want to be clear, right? Like, you will not be a competitive institution if you're not running on Palantir in 2030, period. The way to get there is to set the fiduciary liability of, if it's not so valuable that you have to adopt it, well, how do you do that, right? Like, we don't want you to be using our product in trivial ways, because that's the worst reference customer we can have. But if you see the people talking today that like are literally willing to organize around it, maximize the value of it, that's the kernel of the business that we want to build.
It's just so real. Like what you're saying right here at its very simplest core is, if you deliver value, the money will eventually find you, and the use cases from delivering that value will grow the business because other people need value. As you said, it's hard to be competitive in business in general, and to be competitive, you need to be getting results from the software that you're paying for. I've taken that approach with my business as a media company. I mean, there are ways that I can engage with my audience to amplify the raw numbers, but there would be nothing real there just if you have more viewers. Whereas if you take it to the depths of the core of like, who is Amit? What is his role in the context of creating media? And how can he cultivate an audience that actually cares about the depth of him as a human being? And then eventually can he expand the numbers, which should be a byproduct of just in general, if you're growing as a business, then you should see that number growth, which is now what we're seeing on these earnings calls for Palantir. That's the right way to build a business because there's something real at its core that you're building. And so it is phenomenal to see the trajectory of what has happened over the past couple of years because you did it the right way. You did it your way. And the rest of the market, because I'm inside of all these Wall Street articles every day, they don't fucking understand how you guys did it. But you guys did it.
Yeah. I think every like really meaningful company has to create its own market.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to prove that that's the most valuable market in the world. And I think that's what we are endeavoring to do. We think we're at the very, very beginning, but we think that we're creating the most valuable market in the world. And it's the only way we can do it. Right? It's like there are a lot of other ways to build great businesses. A lot of the other things, they're great businesses. I don't understand them. We couldn't build them. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be built. They're just clearly not what we can build.
Last question for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the past 20 minutes to speak to my audience. A lot of these people I've heard of you guys before, but I never got to see you speak. What's the coolest thing about working at Palantir? Start with Kevin.
I mean, we've worked together for 15 years. We've worked together for 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've done all this with a lot of the same people, a lot of the same team. I mean, that's been awesome.
Mine is all of these things that we like talked a lot about, almost like the counter positioning. It's like, why do you do it this way, not versus how you expect to do it. And I think the thing that I appreciate most about the experience is that having the opportunity to be in a place about the world differently, where I learned things about how to build a business that I didn't believe, or that I didn't even want to believe. And I think that's one of the coolest things is like these people that you get to spend time and like compound with and build on is you learn ways of winning that you wouldn't do if you didn't have the rock band that we had. And that rock band stayed together for a very long time, I think is a really understood, undervalued asset.
And there's like a piece of Karp's book, I think that was like really hit well with a lot of people here, which is sort of like we created this place where everyone could be themselves. And, you know, it's like, yeah, how could you ever leave? It's like, this is the place I get to be myself. And that's pretty great.
Yeah, I've met people here at the previous AIP Con that worked for 18 years, and it's like they're still here. And they want to be here. And Ankit, he was saying the mission, like it's hard to leave when there's an actual real mission in the company. Thank you, Ted.
Cool. Thank you.
Kevin,
Thanks, man.
deeply appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.
Take care.
Thank you guys. All right, guys, I will get you back to the AIP Con presentations.
So support the agents learn quickly about the incidents. So more and more, we think the agent itself is going to be automated as we kind of leverage this type of agents across multiple cases. So one of the key elements is that the AI agent is going to grow from like a newborn to a very skilled professionals over time. So again, they do not learn like a task by the explicit rules, but also by subtle decision making that is unique to each company. And because this capability is embedded in the operating system, it scales, allowing organizations to continuously advance their dynamic supply chain shared by their own expertise. So this type of like the agent learning from each other, being educated as a skilled worker, we think there's going to be a rapid development of AI agents in this segment. Our vision with Palantir goes beyond this single case. We think this AI agent is going to reside in a single usage for a moment, like within a company. But over time, the agent will talk to each other with a cross-company, and that will kind of give more impact, resolving many of the society issues. Again, imagine one of the manufacturers with all the suppliers sharing data, they can all basically manage the disruption in a more managed way. Imagine this agent is talking into cross industry for like an energy company, how to kind of ensure that the electricity is provided to the needed factory. So when the data is shared, we think we can provide much more biggest resilience to the society itself. So our vision is to kind of leverage technology, again, Palantir and Fujitsu coming together to kind of make sure we have a very robust system in the Japan society. But we basically want to kind of provide this type of solution across the, not only in Japan, but also across the global market. So that is my presentation today, and thank you very much for the attention. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Chief Technology and Product Officer at Lumen, Dave Ward.
Hey everyone, I am the last speaker before lunch. And my name is Dave Ward, and as you just heard, I'm the Chief Technology and Product Officer at Lumen. What that means, after we've peeked through the keyhole of so many industries, is that I'm going to show you what's going on in the world of telecommunications. Lumen is a service provider, and I admit I'm a bit flinger. I think about passing packets and photons. There has to be somebody that does that. So that's me. So Lumen, we call ourselves and refer to ourselves as the trusted network for AI. And what's really fascinating for me, thinking about the connectivity portion of what we heard this morning, for an AI strategy, you obviously need to choose an AI partner. We're at a Palantir conference, we have something in common. Almost all the use cases were getting access to locked data and understanding the relationships of that data. So for an AI strategy, you need to choose an AI partner, you need to have a cloud strategy, but frequently what's not talked about at all is that connectivity and moving that data to feed the platform, to feed the LLMs, and on average, what we're seeing from our enterprise customers is on the order of 36 different data sources. Our company is no different, your company is probably very similar. The data is locked on-prem, the data is in data centers, the data is in hyperscalers, the data is in SaaS platforms. To unlock that data, you have to be able to connect it all together. And so the transformation going on in the service provider world is around, of course, this AI revolution. Many things that perhaps you've been reading in the industry are around the growth of data centers and the gigawatt data centers that are being built. As was said earlier today, for AI infrastructure, you have to have the power infrastructure, you have to have the water, the real estate, and also you have to have the connectivity infrastructure. So to put it into perspective, we have about 240 million square feet of data centers in the US today. By the end of 2028, we're going to have about 1 billion square feet of data center space. And so just the fundamental amount of money going into AI and going to these data centers leads me to describe one of our first businesses, which is backbone business. Lumen has the largest amount of conduit and the largest amount of fiber in the lower 48. And we recently announced $8.5 billion of new contracts with hyperscalers and data centers to interconnect the new AI regions. And so we're focusing a lot of our business on building that backbone for AI. Also, we are an enterprise services company. And so as I've heard so many of the talks today, and what I'm going to show in my presentation in the examples, the fundamental question is, how can enterprises join the AI economy? How can they get access to that data? How can they rebuild the telecommunication services that are necessary to transform their own companies to be relevant and to take advantage of the AI economy? So we build metro fiber, inner city fiber, connection to data centers, connection to the hyperscalers. We're the largest by means of traffic internet service provider in America and the world, in fact. And so bigger and better internet. But there's a couple things just talking about history and the transformation. It took about 30 years to get from some of the early concepts of the internet to widely deployed about 25 years ago. It took about 15 years to get to cloud 1.0, and that's the cloud economy that we know today. But what I just mentioned is that with basically 4 times the amount of AI data centers being built in the next 3 years, it's a fundamentally different transformation speed that has to happen for all of us in this room, and certainly for me in our company. So cloud, scale, and what I mean by scale, to really simplify this, it takes over 100 gig link about a day to move a petabyte. Okay, puts it in perspective. So therefore, feeding the data for LLMs is frequently talked about in exabytes. That's 1,000 petabytes. Unacceptable to use that level of speed. So we're building a new network, as I just mentioned, and really bringing in new on-ramps to the cloud, new on-ramps to data centers, and moving from 100 gig to 400 gig to 800 gig to 1.6 terabit as a basic connectivity directly to enterprises, and of course, as new on-ramps and hyperscalers and data centers. So that's the physical aspect of it. The next aspect is we're transforming the traditional telecommunications business, as we've heard from so many companies today, from being paper-driven to being a digital experience. I want to connect from X to Y. I want to hit a button. I want to go now, or I want to use APIs to get that done. And so that digital layer is a fundamental transformation of the customer experience that we want to bring into the market. What you can see in this map is what I deal with every day. And what I mean by that is a telephone network. Many folks know, they see the big windowless brick buildings in their metropolitan area. Telephone's central office. That was built over the last 120 years or so of every single copper line for every telephone brought to a central location. Perhaps there's some wiring centers, often tens, if not hundreds in each metropolitan area. How does the copper lines or the legacy network that was built over the last 30 years be relevant in the AI economy? It's really not. We're a highly regulated industry. We have to handle 911 services. We're a critical infrastructure for the nation and for all of the industries here. So I'm working to transform not only my industry, but enable enterprises to be able to transform their companies by changing the access technology and the speed that has been the foundation of how companies have gotten to where they are today. So that leads me to my first example. We partnered deeply with Palantir because Lumen historically, although you may not necessarily recognize the name, you may recognize that we are an accumulation of acquisitions. You may know CenturyLink, Level 3, Quest, Savvis, TW Telecom, Wiltel, et cetera. These all form the company that is Lumen. I've been there about a year and a half and brought in not only to change the network architecture, but to change the back-end architecture. Because as I arrived, like many companies here who are created through acquisition, nothing gets turned off. All the data silos exist. All the inventory systems exist. And it's that unlocking the data and forming a relationship that really is my first example of how we take out our legacy equipment and take out our legacy architecture. And to do that, we needed to not only transform that network architecture, but in particular, transform the workflows in the operational environment to get that done. It was driven by paper. You know, you see the people driving around in trucks and doing telecom work and things like that. Telecommunications was a completely ticket-driven industry. And so what you're highlighting, what I'm highlighting in here in this demo video was what it looks like in a metropolitan area for a central office, and then the wiring centers around it, and how the connectivity of enterprises is connected there. And so we needed to be able to go into those inventory systems, fully deconstruct customer, line, devices connected to, in which wiring center, and deploy technicians to be able to take that equipment out. And transform how that network is going to be built. Like a lot of enterprises here, that transformation, particularly of a physical assets based company like we are, and so many that presented earlier than me, we actually have to transform the hardware. I mean, we're talking about the copper lines going down the poles, we're talking about the fiber in the ground, we're talking about those buildings and what's in them. And of course, like everyone in a transformation, we're setting targets for how much cost can we take out. And for me, the cost we want to take out is of the legacy equipment and the legacy systems and architecture that is, one, old, but two, preventing enterprises and customers from getting into the AI economy. So to do that, we partnered with Palantir, deeply understand the inventory of our legacy network, deeply understand the workflows that our technicians have to, and the activities they have to do to transform that piece, but also using the ontology, be able to understand which order of operations we can go through to transform our network and transform our business. And so it was a very, very deep exercise across all the data silos, across all of the workflows, across all of the acquisitions we've made to be able to pull this together. And so using the AI part of AIP, we were able to then have that operational optimization and be able to predict the cost takeout and equipment takeout that we could do over time and set our goals as a company for that transformation. Additionally, as you can see from just how some of the data is organized, really what becomes critical for us in this journey is transform the architecture, transform the experience, transform how our customers are connecting while we're still flying the airplane. And so that is a really big issue when you have to deliver things like 911. And also all the critical data that enterprises like in this room need to run their business. And so this has been incredibly successful for us, but to transform our product offerings and our enterprise customers to be relevant to the AI economy, we had to link inventory to systems, to buildings, but then also to what products have they consumed from us? What is that era of product? What is the new product that we would like to bring to market? How much money is that going to actually save the company by transforming? What's the revenue risk and revenue retention issues that we have around that? But then also, are they able to use the digital experience? Are they getting the speeds that they need? And how are we going to deliver that? So we were able to dissect down into the workflow and into our fiber and into our copper, the capabilities of that inventory as we went. And so as we step forward, really what we're taking a look at is how we automate these workflows. And it's fully automated now for us to be able to dispatch technicians to be able to do this and to be able to have them move the customer with zero packet loss. But additionally, as we step forward, we can have the testing of the automation of the live circuit brought back into that automation flow. As we take a look at the next example, this is the one at how we've taken our physical inventory, matched the product inventory to customers, and created a migration path for our customers and for our portfolio of how fast we can move from traditional things like VPNs over traditional dedicated private lines and T1s, and these are some typical telecommunications products, to one in which we can create that fabric that is necessary to access 36 different data sources and to move along that product journey. So Palantir has been on both of these steps, one on understanding our network, two, understanding our customers, and three, setting up our transformation journey that we can take our customers through and make sure that they can take advantage of the other part of our business, that backbone business, which is building connectivity into the major AI data centers and hyperscalers. And so for a telecommunications company and a service provider, the most complex thing we can do is change the way it was always done. Telecom's been around forever. Service providers have been around for a very long time. And changing the foundation of our revenue source into the new model that we want to work towards. And the new model that's being demanded from the market required extreme precision, extreme depth into our data, and the Palantir AI platform has fundamentally helped us achieve those goals. So thank you very much.
Please welcome Head of Corporate Development at Palantir, Sasha Spivak.
One more round of applause for our morning keynote speakers. Palantir is not particularly known for our modesty or our humility or our bashfulness, but today we are deeply proud and honored and humbled to be sharing this with you. These are your stories. This is your vision, your execution, your outcomes, and your wins. And so today we're recognizing that you can be humble and you can still be the best. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being here in person. Thank you to the tens of thousands that are watching on the live stream. We have so much more coming, and let's get after it.
All right, folks, there you go. That is AIP Con number 8. This was an exciting one. This you had Karp stop by, you had Ted and Kevin stop by. It was a little bit spontaneous in terms of the live stream, so I hope people kind of enjoyed this format. This was kind of an idea Sasha, the woman on stage that you saw, was thinking about, of like, hey, what if we just have something more organic in terms of you guys streaming AIP Con itself? And so I think it was fun. A couple more questions that I saw some people had in the chat for Ankit, and he'll give his perspectives on it, and then we'll be done for today. I'll be live tomorrow again on the Market Open. We're not going to have a market close today. I have a couple more interviews to do later today as well, and you guys will see that in a couple days. Okay, this question was really interesting. Can an individual use Palantir to dominate their own life? What is your thoughts on Palantir for the individual versus the enterprise?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of people that work at Palantir that have done a pretty cool job of this. One person used it as a way of essentially building their own language learning tool. So being able to say, hey, I have to create something that can go beyond just basic surface level vocab learning. I want to actually get conversational at this. So one, can I have AI help me with this? Two, how can I define the ontology for that problem for me? And then how can I go in and build out something that I'll actually use day to day? And so that means it has to interact with the places that he would actually go and check it. So he actually didn't use any interfaces in Palantir to do this. So he wasn't going into, say, a workshop application or some custom app built in the platform. It actually just interacted with him over email. So it would send him emails with basically tasks of, hey, here's your lesson for today, and let me go in and make sure that I understand everything. I can build increasing complexity into that, where he would reply to that email with his responses, and where it was right, that would get captured in the ontology, and where it was wrong, he would kind of reinforce that and do the spaced repetition for him and dial in the complexity right. And so that was one example that I really enjoyed, because it's obviously not something that we've built it for. The remit is let you kind of build whatever you want. And so I think people do this for all kinds of things. We have a few folks who do it for financial tracking, of like, hey, how do I do my budgeting and track my own personal transactions and connect it to my bank account and make sure that as I get updates of like, hey, this is what how your spend is shifting, or being able to make sure that transactions are being allocated against the budget that they've set up originally, see when they go over their budget limits, that kind of stuff. And they can do this because they can really tweak it for their personal setup. So yeah, you might have some budgeting software that can do it, but can you tie that budgeting software into then, say, your trip planning? And so I think we've had a couple of examples of people using it for, hey, I have personal trips that I want to take, and it's just a pain to go and plan them.
Is it kind of like a personal agent to an extent?
That's the idea. It's like you can take all of these workflows of, hey, what is my personal ontology of my life? Like, where do I think about? It's like, hey, what's my to-do items? What's my calendar? What's my goals more broadly? What's my financial ontology? And take all this, and they all play together, right? It's things like, hey, when I'm doing trip planning, how do I factor in the budgeting parts of that. Can I actually choose between these 10 different hotels? Like which one's going to be in budget? Which one is going to maybe be nice enough that I'd tweak my budget? And then can I actually go right that back and say, I'm going to capture a change to my budget. So a lot of interesting ways that I think people have been having fun with this and modifying their own personal behavior around it. But you can definitely use it for something like that. And you can actually just try this. You can go to build.palantir.com, sign up.
Well, that's the exciting thing. People can build this. Like, there's a lot of consumer applications. Chad was talking about this the other day that people are building on Palantir. So the idea that you could build a Palantir for your life, an ontology for your life, it's not that far stretched because there's a lot of developers now that are
Exactly. And I think one of the cool things is like you can have that look like whatever you want. It's like the ultimate personal software because you can go in and say, actually, I really care about these parts. I'm going to go in and make sure that that works exactly how I like, and you can make it interact with, you know, all the things your email, your calendar, your home automation. We have someone who's basically wired up their whole house to run on Foundry. So things like the morning routine sets up, turns on their coffee machine, and does a bunch of other things like that. And so a lot of different ways you can set that up.
Okay, Kenneth says, would you agree that an organizational culture that is not an adaptive learning organization will be the largest bottleneck for rapid Palantir adoption?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Ted mentioned is that's like, what happens when you see the first results? Yeah. Do you actually go in and say, all right, what I have to do now is take those results and double down. I want to go in and make sure that we're, one, actually pushing this into production, making sure we're using it everywhere. Maybe if you started by piloting it or trying something out with one plant, you spread it to every plant. If you tried it out for one part of your organization or maybe one region, you spread it out to every region. And then two, does that create the ambition for doing this more broadly? Can you go in and say, all right, not only am I going to go in and do this for our support function, I also want to do it for operations now because I see how those two play together. I think what you find when you do one workflow is you build until you hit the walls of that function. So if you're going and say, hey, we're going to go build something for supply chain, you'll eventually hit up against the walls of like, actually, this kind of bleeds into planning now because without considering planning, can I actually do the supply chain management effectively? It's like, no, you actually need to go in up to the walls of that. With Airbus, we saw us doing this we started on the manufacturing and production of the A350. And what you end up hitting up against the walls is like, well, we really need to see what our suppliers are thinking in terms of this. And that's where the idea for Skywise came about. It's like, hey, not only are we going to expand within Airbus to make sure we're representing all of the things that Airbus cares about, but also can we help their partners, both upstream, suppliers, and downstream, the actual airlines, work together in this environment. So they have their own private tenants with their own security that are separate, but then they can share information between that. So actually a supplier really loves this too, because it means that they can say, hey, I'm not going to try and keep 10 extra spare engine parts for each of these things because I might not need it. And if I can get, a glimpse into what your demand will look like, I can better plan my own production. And then similarly on the other side, when Airbus is saying like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to be able to even to maintain these aircrafts because I don't know if we have the parts that we would need. It's like, well, the supplier connection can help you have that visibility. So I think that's really where that, if you are really calcified in the way that your organization is set up, you won't be able to go past the limits of a single silo. And a lot of that value comes in when you can bust through one silo into thinking about it as an end-to-end business that runs on a shared goal that you're working against.
And that Skywise is one of the first things, if you are a Palantir investor, you learned about. Started in 2017. A lot of us in 2021 kind of saw the case study. And that was the first time which had a very nascent understanding of the actual technology, was like, okay, vendors, distributors, suppliers, airlines, all of it comes together from Airbus because everything integrated into this operating system, as you're saying, makes things work. And so then you ask yourself, well, why doesn't every single company on the planet that has a million different variables that they have to touch integrate into one unified operating system, which means all those other companies have to integrate into it, which is a hard sales pitch for all those. But if it does happen, you get something magical like Skywise.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's exciting. There's a lot of different ways that integration can happen, right? So you might not need to integrate with suppliers by having them run in Foundry as well or something like that. What you could do is maybe you already have some sort of interface for how you communicate back and forth, and you can actually start introducing automation into that part. So it's like, start with the systems you already have. You don't have to come up with the solution for everything across the whole world in one shot. Go figure out, hey, if this is the new bottleneck, can we solve it and incrementally move from where we are now to the world that you actually want? What you might find is over time you do the more extensive, actually they have their own instance of Foundry that they're doing the planning in, because that's the way you can work together best, and that's what happened at Skywise. But in some cases, like actually just having that a little bit of integration could be a game changer for your individual workflows. So
it's exciting stuff. It's very, very, very exciting stuff. If you guys enjoyed Ankit, put some W's in the chat. This is a real background. It's all real. It's very beautiful, quite frankly. Like, I didn't think we would get this type of background, but got the mountains right there. It was awesome. Ankit, thank you so much. We really appreciated it. And yeah, this was definitely a new innovative format of like streaming AIP Con at AIP Con with commentary from someone who knows a lot about Palantir. When did you join again? 2012?
Joined in 2012, so
wow.
It's been about 13 years now. So.
And you have no intention of going anywhere else.
So if it's just too much to build right now.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'll leave his Twitter right here in the chat again. You guys can check him out. I'll put it in the description as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. If you guys are following me on Twitter, there are some clips of the Karp interview for those that haven't seen it. I'll post it separately as well, but that was super fun. Thank you to Dr. Karp for joining. Thank you to Ted and Kevin for joining as well. And thank you, Ankit, for being with me for the past 3 hours and helping commentate AIP Con.
Happy to do it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, Ankit, we'll see you guys at the next AIP Con. Bye, everybody.